Chapter 741, Thunder God Pearl. This pearl emitted a terrifying aura. Thunder filled the air around it, as if all the thunder in the world originated from this purple pearl. It floated in midair, its surface crackling with lightning, radiating a strong sense of oppression. At this moment, the purple pearl seemed to be sealed, suspended in the air with numerous purple chains wrapped around it. These chains held it in place, keeping the pearl trapped and unable to leave. A purple glow radiated from the pearl, enveloping two massive winged dragons within it. "What is that?" Qin Shuang exclaimed. "Don't speak," Su Zimo said. However, their voices still disturbed the sleeping winged dragons. The place was far too silent. Any small sound felt out of place. When the two winged dragons awoke, their eyes, filled with immense pressure, stared at the two small figures before them. They exhaled dragon fire from their nostrils, stood nearly 100 meters tall, and their wings, which blotted out the sky, flapped heavily. Even more terrifying, their bodies were surrounded by lightning, as if thunder gods had descended, causing the surroundings to tremble. How could there be such monsters in my clan's forbidden ground? Qin Shuang grabbed Su Zimo's arm in fear. "How would I know?" Su Zimo replied with a smile. "Quiet, both of you." Just then, a hoarse voice suddenly spoke. Then, from the purple pearl, an old man's face emerged. This elder had white hair and a white beard, looking kindly and benevolent. "Children, don't be afraid," the old man said with a light smile. "It's already developed consciousness. How unbelievable," Su Zimo murmured inwardly. "They're my pets. They won't harm people randomly," the old man said with a smile. "Who are you? Why are you in my clan's forbidden ground?" Qin Shuang asked nervously. "Your clan?" The old man was stunned for a moment before realizing. "You're a descendant of Crown Monarch, aren't you? You knew my ancestor?" Qin Shuang nodded and asked. "An old acquaintance. Back when your crown city faced a great catastrophe, I came at Crown Monarch's invitation to help," the old man sighed. "Unfortunately, that disaster was too powerful, and I perished in it." "Then, Elder, what are you now?" Qin Shuang asked in confusion. "I'm in an astral state now. Over the millions of years, I've gradually adjusted," the old man explained. "Then, are you currently trapped?" Qin Shuang asked. "Yes. When Crown Monarch sealed this place, he didn't know my spirit was still alive, so I was sealed along with it," the old man said kindly. "You don't need to worry. As long as the people of Crown City are safe, it was worth it." Qin Shuang wanted to say more, but Su Zimo interrupted her. "Senior, we won't disturb you further," Su Zimo said, pulling Qin Shuang toward the passage they came from. "Wait, you two, please," the old man said anxiously. "Does Senior still have something to say?" Su Zimo asked. "I've been here so many years, far too lonely. Now that someone has finally come, could you two youngsters stay and chat a while?" The old man sighed. "After all, I sacrificed myself for your crown city." "Oh, is that so? Then what do you want to talk about?" Su Zimo asked. "Are you two the only ones who came to this thundercloud cave?" The old man continued. "Just the two of us," Su Zimo nodded. "Do you want to become peerless geniuses?" the old man asked. "Back in my day, before I died, I was someone who could rival your ancestor. If you're willing, you can take me as your master, and I will pass on all I've learned in my life to you." Hearing this, Su Zimo knew the truth and just smiled. As for Qin Shuang, unable to cultivate, she wasn't very interested. Seeing their expressions, the old man was stunned. This wasn't what he imagined. Shouldn't they be falling to their knees and bowing? Do young people nowadays not value the inheritance of powerful beings? In the next moment, lightning flashed all around, and at the center of the thunderstorm, a long sword infused with thunder appeared. "This is our first meeting, which is fate," the old man said. "This thunder sword accompanied me in countless battles. I don't want it to gather dust here. I'll give it to you. You can come take it yourselves." "Senior, what's the point?" Su Zimo smiled. "Young man, What do you mean? Do you think I, the Lord of Thunder, would lie to you? The old man said coldly. Another so-called Lord of Thunder, your acting is terrible. I suggest you learn a thing or two from little Gue. Suzumo shook his head. Young man, what are you saying? The old man squinted and asked. This Thunder God pearl of yours is indeed extraordinary. After being sealed for so long, it developed independent consciousness. Suzumo smacked his lips. Interesting. Hearing Suzumo's words, the old man's expression changed. He stared at Suzumo and said, You know, of course, we came here for you. Why else would we enter the Thundercloud Cave? Suzumo smiled. Then why didn't you say so earlier? The old man asked. Because you were amusing, Suzumo laughed. Seeking death. With the old man's roar, the two winged dragons beside them let out loud howls and charged at Suzumo and Qin Shuang. Get behind me, Suzumo said to Qin Shuang. He then punched each dragon, sending them flying. As they got up and roared again, their mouths opened wide, spitting balls of thunder at Suzumo. Your winged dragons are really poorly trained, Suzumo smiled. In a flash, he appeared behind the two dragons. Grabbing their legs, the seemingly small Suzumo lifted them both. He smashed them against the walls on either side. Booming explosions echoed all around. The entire cave trembled, rocks fell, and the ground cracked as if it were about to collapse. After dozens of hits, Suzumo finally flung the dragons aside. They lay on the ground, covered in blood, lightning gone, only faint electric sparks flickering on their bodies. These winged dragons seemed to be some kind of mutated creatures, likely nurtured by the Thunder God Pearl over the years to protect itself. After all, being sealed, it had almost no offensive power. What's going on? Qin Shuang still hadn't figured it out. Don't you see? It's the culprit your ancestor sealed here, Suzumo said. One of the 5 spirit orbs, Thunder God Pearl. Chapter 742, Chaos God Thunder. It seems you know even more than I thought, the old man said calmly upon hearing Suzumo's words. Let's deal with your consciousness first, Suzumo snorted coldly. He waved his hand and reached toward the Thunder God Pearl. Courting death, the old man shouted. The purple pearl erupted with lightning, and thunder dragons surged within it. They circled above, roaring at Suzumo with their proud heads. But as the chains sealing the Thunder God Pearl began to shake, the thunder dragons were clearly affected. Their aura weakened. Still, they roared ferociously, drawing on the pearl's power to launch lightning attacks at Suzumo. You're just a toothless tiger now. Suzumo shook his head slightly. At your peak. I wasn't afraid. What chance do you stand now? Samsara reversal. Shadow Tyrant was unsheathed. The ringing of the blade echoed through the cave. A force of Samsara spread outward, and blade energy surged like a sea of swords from purgatory. Empowered by wave after wave of Samsara, it slashed directly at the thunder dragons. With a poof, one dragon's head was cut off, exploding into sparks of lightning across the cave. What are you doing? The old man was visibly panicked. You were never meant to exist, Suzumo said indifferently. He waved his hand, forcibly pulling the consciousness out of the Thunder God Pearl's core. No, stop! The old man resisted with all his might. I trained for millions of years just to form this strand of consciousness. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. I want the original Thunder God Pearl. I doubt you can deliver that, Suzumo smiled. I'm backing down. If you keep pushing, don't blame me for dragging you down with me. The old man snarled, his face twisted and illusory. Maybe you'll die, but the net won't necessarily break, Suzumo replied with a smile. He continued pulling on the old man's consciousness, trying to drag it out entirely and destroy it. Then a piercing crack of thunder roared by his ear. Above, countless lightning bolts twisted across the sky. The surface of the Thunder God Pearl, once glowing purple, was now shrouded in a layer of nothingness. Let's die together, Chaos God Thunder, the old man cackled sinisterly. If one looked from the outside, they would see the entire sky above Crown City had changed. A mysterious force shot into the heavens, summoning divine thunder from the ninth heaven. The sky instantly darkened with clouds, and a massive void vortex formed. From within the vortex, a terrifying power gathered, with streaks of gray lightning arcing outward. In an instant, it was as if the sky collapsed. A devastating bolt of gray lightning, capable of ripping the heavens apart, descended with unstoppable force. The target was the Thundercloud Cave in the Qin residence. Outside, Qin Feng noticed the disturbance. His expression changed as he shouted, "No!" He tried to charge into the lightning pool of the Thundercloud Cave. But the Chaos God Thunder descended, obliterating everything in its path, far beyond his power to touch. Watching the thunder fall, Su Zimo smiled and pulled out a token. He had taken it from Qin Shuang. If his guess was right, this token was the companion artifact of the Thunder God Pearl. Su Zimo smiled. As soon as the token appeared, the old man panicked. "How did that end up in your hands?" the old man demanded. "Guess." Su Zimo grinned. Spirit force surged into the token. As it entered, it transformed into a deep purple hue. The Chaos God Thunder smashed through the ceiling of the Thundercloud Cave, striking down toward Su Zimo. Clearly, this was the power the old man had spent tens of millions of years gathering, meant to help him escape. But he never had the chance to break the seal. This time he was forced into action. As the thunderbolt struck, Su Zimo used the purple energy from the token to shield himself. Surprisingly, the purple aura had a special property. It could block the force of the lightning. "Try it yourself," Su Zimo said as he aimed the purple aura toward the phantom on the Thunder God Pearl. He redirected the Chaos God Thunder at it. "No!" the old man screamed in terror. He could withstand normal thunder to some extent, but this Chaos God Thunder was far beyond what he could endure. "Aya!" Accompanied by a chilling and terrified scream, the old man's consciousness was utterly destroyed by the thunder. Lightning, being pure and fierce, had a strong penetrating and burning effect on soul forms. Once the old man's spirit was obliterated, the Chaos God Thunder above the ninth heaven lost its target and gradually dispersed. "Are you okay?" Qin Shuang rushed over, asking nervously. "What could happen to me?" Su Zimo smiled and shook his head. He walked to the Thunder God Pearl and looked at the ceiling chains. Grabbing the chains with both hands, he pulled hard. The sound of chains clanking echoed throughout the cave. "Break!" Su Zimo shouted softly. Power spun within his body, and a giant phantom loomed behind him. He forcefully shattered the ceiling chains. Freed from its restraints, the Thunder God Pearl tried to flee in the form of lightning. But Su Zimo was prepared. His hand came down, blocking its path, and he captured it into his True Fate world. After finishing everything, Su Zimo took a deep breath. He now had 4 of the 5 Spirit Pearls: the Wind-Destroying Pearl, Soft Water Pearl, Second Wood Pearl, and this Thunder God Pearl. As for the last one, the Nirvana Pearl, Su Zimo had heard about it during the demon-slaying gathering organized by the Lan clan. He had even obtained its companion artifact back then. "Looks like I'll have to visit the Mortal Dust Palace sometime," Su Zimo thought to himself. Lan Kuer went to the Mortal Dust Palace too. As one of the 10 forbidden grounds, the Mortal Dust Palace wasn't the most dangerous, but it was special. Su Zimo needed to plan carefully. "Let's go," Su Zimo said to Qin Shuang. She silently nodded. "You don't look very happy?" Su Zimo asked, puzzled. "You got what you came for? Does that mean you're leaving?" Qin Shuang remained silent for a moment before asking, her eyes soft and watery. "What else would I stay for?" Su Zimo replied. "Oh." Qin Shuang nodded quietly. When the two of them exited the cave and walked out of the thunder pool, Qin Feng was already waiting. "Lord of Crown City," Su Zimo greeted with a smile. "Who exactly are you? What is your purpose in coming to my Qin clan?" Qin Feng stared at Su Zimo and demanded. Chapter 743 Xiang Kunlun arrives. City Lord Qin already knows, doesn't he? What other motives could I have? Su Zimo said with a smile and shook his head. But what about you, City Lord? What's the purpose behind your marriage proposal? You went to the sealed cave, didn't you? Qin Feng asked coldly. So what if I did? Su Zimo replied. Tell me the truth. What did you see? If you lie even once, I'll suppress you right here, Qin Feng said with a powerful aura pressing down on Su Zimo. With your Empyrean Meridian realm strength, I'm afraid that's not enough to suppress me, Su Zimo replied calmly and shook his head. Father, what are you doing? Qin Shuang quickly stepped in to stop them. Can't we talk this through properly? Shuanger, where is the token I gave you? Qin Feng asked. Qin Shuang took out the token. Since Su Zimo had already obtained the Thunder God Pearl, the token no longer held much significance. You too. Come with me, Qin Feng said as he took the token and walked out of the Thundercloud Cave. Su Zimo waved his hand and followed him out. They arrived at the rear mountain of the Qin estate. Hand over the Thunder God Pearl, and I'll let you leave unharmed, Qin Feng said with his back turned. No. Su Zimo shook his head. Qin Feng's gaze grew sharp, and he reached toward Su Zimo with his right hand. In the next moment, Qin Shuang suddenly stepped forward and blocked him. Shuanger, what are you doing? Qin Feng quickly withdrew his hand and asked in surprise. He saved my life. I won't let you hurt him. Qin Shuang shook her head. You don't understand. He came to the Qin clan with ulterior motives. He only wanted the Thunder God Pearl, Qin Feng explained. That pearl's been sealed away for years and served no purpose. So what if he takes it? Qin Shuang replied. That's an ancestral item with great importance. Move aside now, Qin Feng scolded. I won't. We already became husband and wife in the Thunder Pool. Father, please forgive him, Qin Shuang pleaded. If you truly became husband and wife, would he still be alive? Could he resist your underworld ice physique? Qin Feng said coldly. In that case, if you want to kill him, you'll have to kill me too, Qin Shuang said, still standing in front of Su Zimo. You? Qin Feng stared at her for a long while before sighing heavily and turning to leave. He cannot leave the Qin clan for now. After Qin Feng left, Qin Shuang finally let out a sigh of relief. Are you all right? She asked Su Zimo. My father isn't usually like this. He seems to care about you a lot, Su Zimo smiled. These years, because of my body, he's worried sick, Qin Shuang said with a hint of sadness. The two walked out of the rear mountain and returned to the Qin residence. Although Qin Feng was gone, Su Zimo still felt many eyes secretly watching him. Clearly, they were afraid he might run away. Let's go to my courtyard. I'll examine your body, Su Zimo said. Huh? What are you planning to do? Qin Shuang instantly blushed like a red apple. Check your physique. What else did you think? Su Zimo replied helplessly. If I wanted to do something, I would have done it in the Thunder Pool earlier. Following behind Su Zimo, Qin Shuang lowered her head and quietly glanced at his back. There's no such thing as an unsolvable problem in this world. Since the underworld ice physique exists, there must be a way to resolve it. Qin Feng's method required too many sacrifices, had too much uncertainty, and went against the natural order. It was a last resort at best. After arriving at Su Zimo's room, he had Qin Shuang lie on the bed. He placed his hand on her forehead and wrist, slowly probing inside her body. The moment he made contact, Su Zimo's spirit sense was met with a wave of cold air. He discovered that Qin Shuang's meridians, and even her organs like the heart, lungs, and stomach, were different from ordinary people. Her meridians and organs were snow-white, as if covered in a layer of frost. The deeper he probed, the more he realized her body was being consumed by ice. This wasn't something that could be fixed by simply removing the cold energy. Her body constantly generated cold air. Once it reached a critical point, it would flare up like what happened earlier in the garden pavilion. She's basically a snowman, Su Zimo sighed after finishing the examination. Qin Shuang's condition was severe. Her entire body was almost covered in ice. It wouldn't be long before the cold could no longer be suppressed, and she would lose all vitality. How is it? Qin Shuang asked. Very bad. Su Zimo shook his head. I already knew that, Qin Shuang said with a sad smile. Then she looked at Su Zimo and said, In the final days of my life, can you stay beside me? Don't be so pessimistic. I'll figure something out. Su Zimo waved his hand. He hadn't encountered an innate physique like this before. It was indeed tricky. His only option was to check the records at the true martial sacred ground or ask someone knowledgeable. That evening, Qin Shuang returned to her room. Su Zimo entered the god world while asleep. He asked Paimon and the other two about the underworld ice physique, but none of them had heard of it. It was probably an extremely rare physique, or perhaps it hadn't existed yet during the Blessed Epoch, which is why they weren't familiar with it. The Qin residence was eerily quiet at night. In the council hall, Qin Shuang knelt on the floor. At the head of the room, Qin Feng held his forehead, looking deeply troubled. Father, please let him go, Qin Shuang said. If it were anything else, I wouldn't care. But the Thunder God Pearl is non-negotiable, Qin Feng said wearily. So even in the last days of my life, must you let me live in sorrow and isolation? Qin Shuang pleaded. Just because he saved you, you're protecting him like this? Foolish, Qin Feng said. Qin Shuang remained silent with her head lowered. Her mind was filled with images of Su Zimo saving her. Though they hadn't known each other long, she didn't understand it herself, felt like she had already fallen for him. Go back first. Let me think this over. Qin Feng waved his hand. If he dies, your daughter will not live either, Qin Shuang said before leaving. Watching her walk away, Qin Feng could only sigh heavily in the end. The next morning, as soon as Su Zimo got up, Qin Shuang came to his courtyard. You're up early, Su Zimo smiled. Qin Shuang had the servants bring breakfast and set it on the table. There's an important guest today. Father went to greet him, so I got up early too, she replied. What kind of important guest? Su Zimo asked after washing up. Apparently it's the Holy Son of the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground. He asked Father to help him find someone, Qin Shuang replied. Father's taking it seriously. The visitor's status isn't ordinary. Chapter 744, Nirvana Fire Pearl. The Holy Son of the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground? Su Zimo was momentarily stunned, then chuckled lightly. Xiang Kunlun, huh? I didn't really care, Qin Shuang said, pouting. Quick, try the food and see if it tastes good. After washing up, Su Zimo glanced at the breakfast. Unlike the medicinal meals before, today's breakfast was simple. Just a bowl of plain porridge, a few steamed buns, and a plate of stir-fried vegetables. You made this? Su Zimo asked casually as he sat down. What are you thinking? Qin Shuang instantly blushed. Watching Su Zimo eat, she asked expectantly, How does it taste? Pretty good, Su Zimo smiled. Really? Qin Shuang smiled, revealing a small dimple on her left cheek, and nodded with satisfaction. Where is Xiang Kunlun? Su Zimo asked. In the main hall, Qin Shuang replied with a puzzled look. Why are you so interested in him? Maybe I'm the one he's looking for, Su Zimo laughed. What? You know him? Qin Shuang asked in surprise. Take me to the front hall. After all, he's searching so hard. Su Zimo smiled. Why does your tone sound so strange? Qin Shuang asked. Sarcasm, Su Zimo laughed. After breakfast, Su Zimo and Qin Shuang left the courtyard and headed toward the Qin clan's main hall. When we get there, don't say anything inappropriate, Qin Shuang warned. Even though we're not afraid of ordinary imperial lineages, the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground has produced 3 grand emperors. They're not to be underestimated. Even my father doesn't dare offend them. They walked along a stone-paved forest path, and halfway there, they ran into Steward Long, who was leading a middle-aged man and a young man toward them. Seeing the young man, Qin Shuang instinctively avoided his gaze. What's wrong? Su Zimo asked, noticing something was off. As he finished speaking, the young man saw them as well. His eyes lit up and he called out, Shuanger. Qin Shuang didn't respond. Instead, she grabbed Su Zimo's arm and hid behind him. "Who are you?" The young man frowned and asked Su Zimo. "Shouldn't you introduce yourself before asking others?" Su Zimo said calmly. The young man frowned at him and replied, "I am Qin Fusu, holy son of Supreme Crown. Let's go." "Ignore him." Qin Shuang tugged on Su Zimo's arm and whispered, "I'm Su Zimo, just a rogue cultivator," Su Zimo said, waving his hand as he led Qin Shuang away. The young man seemed about to say something but was stopped by the middle-aged man behind him. "Fusu, don't be rude." After the two walked away, Qin Shuang finally let go of Su Zimo's hand. "Why were you so nervous just now?" Su Zimo asked. "You probably know already, I was betrothed to Qin Fusu since childhood. My father originally wanted to form an alliance with Supreme Crown," Qin Shuang said. "But after my constitution was discovered, Supreme Crown publicly broke off the engagement." "I see. Qin Fusu still seems to like you." Su Zimo smiled. "Yeah, right?" Qin Shuang snorted and said no more. While chatting, the two arrived at the front hall. A guard in blue stood outside. When he saw them, he quickly greeted, "Miss Young Master, where's my father?" Qin Shuang asked, a little shy after hearing the title. "The master is entertaining guests inside. Miss should wait a moment," the guard replied. Su Zimo wasn't in a hurry and took Qin Shuang to sit in a nearby pavilion. He laid on the bench, resting his head on Qin Shuang's lap. He could feel her whole body stiffen. Neither of them spoke. The wind rustled the withered leaves of the courtyard trees and then vanished. On the other side, Steward Long approached with Qin Fusu and the middle-aged man. Seeing Su Zimo resting on Qin Shuang's lap, Qin Fusu's eyes turned red with rage. "You bastard, you're courting death." The sound of his sword rang out as the blade at his waist trembled. "Holy Son Fusu, this is Crown City. You should restrain yourself," Steward Long said. "Elder Qin Shang, don't say I didn't show you respect." The middle-aged man beside them smiled and patted Qin Fusu's shoulder, suppressing his aura. "Fusu, don't forget why we're here." As they were speaking, Qin Feng came out of the hall with a young man and an old man. The young man wore a purple robe and exuded a powerful aura. His sharply carved features were strikingly handsome. The old man beside him was unfathomable, his aura like an endless ocean that pulled everything around into stillness. "City Lord Qin, thank you for handling this matter," Xiang Kunlun said respectfully. Qin Feng's expression was slightly uneasy, but he still nodded. Then he turned and saw Qin Fusu and Elder Qin Shang. "Holy Son, Elder Qin Shang, what brings you to my Qin residence?" Qin Feng asked coldly. He was still bitter that they were involved in the broken engagement with his daughter, even though he knew her condition was the cause. "Uncle, we're here to discuss my engagement to Shuanger," Qin Fusu said quickly. "Engagement? Holy Son, you must be joking," Qin Feng sneered. "You have no ties to the Qin clan anymore. What engagement?" "Uncle, I know you're angry. I was short-sighted before, but now I've searched far and wide and found a way to treat Shuanger's condition," Qin Fusu said urgently. "What method?" Qin Feng's eyes lit up, his expression changing as he quickly asked. "Shuanger's physique is of extreme yin. To cure it, we must use an item of extreme yang," Qin Fusu explained. "Our current yang-based items are too weak. They can only suppress the underworld ice physique, not cure it. To completely heal her, we need the most powerful yang item." "And what's that?" Qin Feng asked. "One of the 5 spirit orbs, the Nirvana Fire Pearl," Qin Fusu said, enunciating clearly. "The Nirvana flame within the Nirvana Fire Pearl can not only cure the underworld ice, but also transform the body and give Shuanger a new life." "Are you serious?" Qin Feng took a deep breath, visibly excited. "Absolutely. This constitution was recorded even during the legendary era." Qin Fusu nodded. "And do you know where the Nirvana Fire Pearl is now?" Qin Feng asked. "Well," Qin Fusu hesitated, then said, "We're still searching. The 5 spirit orbs aren't easy to find." Fine. Whoever finds the Nirvana Fire Pearl will become Schwanger's future husband and inherit my position as City Lord of Crown City. Qin Feng declared firmly. Father, I won't marry anyone. Qin Shuang suddenly shouted from the side after hearing this. At that moment, everyone finally noticed Su Zimo and Qin Shuang sitting in the nearby pavilion. Chapter 745, Heaven Burial. So you're here. The moment Xiang Kunlun saw Su Zimo, the immense aura around him surged even higher. City Lord Qin, the person we're looking for, is in your estate. Are you trying to protect him? The elder beside him frowned and asked. Elder Bei, don't misunderstand. I'm sure there must be some sort of mistake, Qin Feng quickly said. I originally intended to clear things up before informing you. What kind of mistake could there be? He killed Changhong and destroyed my avatar. Is that something to be faked? Xiang Kunlun asked coldly. Qin Fusu chuckled from the side, enjoying the show. Qin Feng frowned slightly and looked at Su Zimo. What's going on? I did kill a fly named Feiyu Changhong. Su Zimo nodded. But it started because he tried to steal my mount. Your imperial throne sacred ground sure acts mighty. You're allowed to kill others, but others can't kill your disciples? So arrogant, anyone who didn't know better would think the North Emperor had returned. Do you really believe it's still the era of your sect? Hearing this, the elder from the imperial throne sacred ground snorted coldly. You're bold. Though we may not rule the world, killing an ant like you is still easy, he said. Everyone, calm down, Qin Feng said wearily. Can't we each take a step back? City Lord Qin, are you trying to mediate this? The elder asked. Su Zimo once saved my daughter's life. I must do my best to protect him, Qin Feng said helplessly. He could clearly see his daughter had fallen for Su Zimo. Su Zimo killed in self-defense, but a life was lost. What if we settle this with compensation? City Lord Qin, stay out of this, the elder replied. Do you think our imperial throne sacred ground needs compensation? Changhong's personality was indeed arrogant and domineering, especially in recent years as he relied on our sect's power. But regardless, he shouldn't have been killed. Xiang Kunlun finally spoke. How about this? I won't involve the sect. Let's duel, just you and me. Life and death decided by battle. What do you say? No! Qin Shuang immediately shouted, grabbing Su Zimo's hand and shaking her head. Schwanger, come here, Qin Feng scolded. He had already done everything he could. The imperial throne sacred ground not interfering was the best he could hope for. But someone died, someone had to take responsibility. Qin Shuang looked at her father and saw he was truly angry. She stood frozen, caught in the middle. Go on. I can handle this with my eyes closed, Su Zimo said with a smile. If anything happens to you, then I... Qin Shuang blushed and couldn't finish her sentence. All right, I understand. Trust me, Su Zimo said, patting her head. After watching her leave, Su Zimo turned to face Xiang Kunlun. I didn't even care to settle the last incident, but you really are eager to die. You think defeating my avatar is impressive? Xiang Kunlun said calmly. As he spoke, a powerful aura slowly rose around him. It was at about the 5th level of God Meridian Realm, representing the top of the younger generation. A holy son from a lineage with 3 grand emperors was truly formidable. Thunder coiled around him, and the 4 god beasts, the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise, appeared around him. A majestic heavenly gate slowly opened behind him. He looked at Su Zimo with eyes full of dominance and disdain. Several illusory figures shimmered around him. Elder Qin Shang looked at their holy son and asked, Fusu, what do you think of him? I've heard Xiang Kunlun is a once-in-a-generation talent. He's merged the teachings of 3 generations of grand emperors from the imperial throne sacred ground into himself. Especially his true fate, said to be unimaginably powerful. Qin Fusu replied, I can't match him now, but once my cultivation rises and I compete for heaven's will, I won't be inferior. Good. That's worthy of a holy son of supreme crown, Elder Qin Shang praised. To him, whether one could win didn't matter. What mattered was an unyielding heart. Xiong Kunlun stepped into the air, and countless cosmic visions swirled around him. As he rose into the sky, the entire heavens seemed to be suppressed, and the four sacred beasts roared. People in Qin City looked up at the sky in awe. Someone shouted, "The skies are changing!" The entire city became lively. "Come, let's have a proper fight," Xiong Kunlun said to Su Zimo. He stood before the heavenly gate, and behind him, the void seemed to make him the ruler of all creation. Su Zimo shook his head with a smile and also calmly stepped into the air. No powerful aura radiated from him. He looked like a drifting reed in a storm, gently facing Xiong Kunlun in the sky. Xiong Kunlun's eyes were deep, and purple lightning surrounded his body. The four sacred beasts stood proud, shrouded in the purple lightning, which now looked like armor over their forms. Their power and speed were significantly enhanced. The four god beasts' grand scripture created by the North Emperor, Qin Feng muttered. He looked at Su Zimo, unsure how he would respond. He knew that even with his own Empyrean Meridian realm power, he likely couldn't withstand this attack. Su Zimo slowly drew his blade, Shadow Tyrant. Long and used, it trembled with a resonant hum. 16th form of Dao Seeking, Heaven Burial, Su Zimo murmured. A streak of black light erupted from Shadow Tyrant, followed by the descent of darkness. The sun and sky were covered by a veil of black. This move hadn't been so powerful in his past life, but Su Zimo had since merged infernal energy into it, making it even stronger. As darkness swallowed the sky, boundless spirit force gathered and was absorbed into the black mist. Su Zimo slowly swung Shadow Tyrant, and from the edge of the blade, a terrifying beast's head began to form. The monstrous head devoured the black mist in the sky. Centered on Su Zimo, all the surrounding black mist was drawn into the blade. As he swung the blade, light returned to the sky. The last of the mist was completely devoured. With a roar, the beast's head lunged toward the four sacred beasts. A deafening boom followed as black mist engulfed everything, and the four sacred beasts were instantly reduced to dust, vanishing in midair. The blade's energy charged forward, continuing toward Xiong Kunlun. "Heavenly Gate! Open!" Xiong Kunlun roared. The gate behind him instantly expanded, and a stream of ethereal mist surged out, wrapping around him. Chapter 746 1/Shatters Heavenly Gate. The moment the Heavenly Gate opened, a wave of void energy spread out and enveloped Xiong Kunlun. The black mist of the Heaven Burial technique swept over but was completely absorbed by the Heavenly Gate behind Xiong Kunlun. Legend has it that the founder of the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground, the Celestial Emperor, could connect to the outer heavens through the Heavenly Gate, absorbing all forms of attacks. "Xiong Kunlun is no ordinary man," Elder Qin Shang remarked from below. "Of course. Did you think our holy son from the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground would be that simple?" The elder from the sect said calmly. "But that other guy isn't simple either. He's matching Xiong Kunlun evenly." "Matching? Young Master Su clearly has the upper hand," Qin Shuang said with a pout. "Shuanger, don't be rude," Qin Feng frowned. "The first move was just a test. Xiong Kunlun hasn't even revealed his true fate yet." In the sky above, Xiong Kunlun took a deep breath, and the heavenly gate behind him radiated dazzling light. "I wasn't wrong. You're indeed worthy of being my opponent," Xiong Kunlun said seriously. "So much nonsense." Su Zimo shook his head. His aura continued to rise. First transformation, Heaven Break. Second transformation, Profound Soul. Seventh transformation, Azure Dragon. As the ancient and massive phantom of an azure dragon gradually appeared behind him, Su Zimo's pressure reached an unbelievable level. The surrounding void continued to collapse as reverse currents of space swept past. In his hand, Shadow Tyrant roared like a sea of blades. Waves of sword intent surged, each stronger than the last. With one slash, accompanied by that overpowering blade intent, the entire sky seemed to collapse. People below looked up. Their vision was obscured by the overwhelming sword energy slashing across the heavens. The next moment, a loud boom exploded overhead. The sky seemed to shatter, as if the heavens themselves were collapsing. Roaring sounds filled the ears. Within the vast ocean of blade intent, Xiang Kunlun's figure was consumed. Even the heavenly gate behind him resisted only for a brief moment before being completely shattered. One slash destroyed the 4 god beasts. One slash broke the heavenly gate. Someone below muttered in awe. Everyone was shaken. Even Qin Feng was stunned for a moment, reflecting on his earlier actions. What kind of monster is this guy? In the sky, the sword intent shattered the firmament. As the black mist gradually dissipated, the spot where Xiang Kunlun had stood was now completely swallowed by the void. Grand Emperor body. Suddenly, a majestic voice echoed from the depths of the void. Then the world fell silent. A towering figure appeared in the sky, hands clasped behind his back, exuding an overwhelming aura. This figure was shrouded in void. No one could see his face. Only the thick imperial aura spread from his body, suppressing everything. Grand Emperor? Someone stammered. He hasn't even formed his heaven's will yet. How could he be a Grand Emperor? Another person shook his head. No, he's not a Grand Emperor, but he resembles one. What does that mean? Some confused people asked. I'm not sure what it is either, but he's definitely not a true Grand Emperor. In the courtyard of the city lord's mansion, the elder from the imperial throne sacred ground stroked his long white beard in satisfaction. Elder Bei, what is that? Qin Feng asked curiously, staring at the Grand Emperor body in the sky. That's our holy son's true fate, Elder Bei replied. Kunlun has already glimpsed the secrets of the future. Rather than calling it a Grand Emperor body, you could say it's a future body. Future body? You mean he will become a Grand Emperor in the future? Qin Feng was stunned. So he can borrow power from the future? Peeking into the secrets of time itself. Qin Feng still felt confused. If Xiang Kunlun really became a Grand Emperor in the future, that would be terrifying. But the future was ever-changing. Who could truly say? You won't understand Kunlun's Tao. Just watch, Elder Bei said. Everyone looked to the sky. In front of the Grand Emperor body, Xiang Kunlun's figure gradually reappeared. He stepped into the air and merged with the Grand Emperor body, as if he had traversed countless timelines and fused with his future self. In that moment, the fog surrounding the Grand Emperor body began to clear, revealing a more defined figure. Su Zimo looked up and saw clearly. It was Xiang Kunlun's own form. His aura was boundless, and his eyes seemed to hold the movement of thousands of stars. Powerful imperial energy surged from his body. Use your true fate. Xiang Kunlun stood with hands behind his back and spoke calmly. You're not worthy of seeing my true fate. Su Zimo shook his head. Don't be so arrogant. You may seem strong to others, but to me, that's all you are. Xiang Kunlun snorted. He raised his palm and struck toward Su Zimo. Immense imperial power filled his palm, covering half the sky. Suppress, he said softly. Su Zimo smiled. The force vortex inside his body spun wildly. Powerful energy spread across his body. Behind him, the heaven-shattering giant condensed once more. The power vortexes of heaven-shattering God Scripture could gather endlessly, not only in the body, but also in the soul. At that moment, as the giant appeared, a tremendous pressure descended. The giant reached out with its palm to clash with the Grand Emperor body. With a loud explosion, a shockwave burst through the sky. Wherever the shockwave passed, everything was obliterated. The heavens collapsed once again. Xiang Kunlun was pushed back more than 10 steps before finally stabilizing. He looked at Su Zimo with a grave expression and asked word by word, "Is that your true fate? Don't misunderstand. This is just the beginning." Su Zimo shook his head. "Keep going. Let's see if your strength matches your confidence." Behind him, the giant roared toward the heavens and began walking step by step towards Xiang Kunlun. Thunderous booms echoed across the sky, like rolling thunder. In the next moment, the giant raised its foot and stomped down on Xiong Kunlun. Xiong Kunlun's expression grew serious. He brought his hands together, quickly blocking above his head. With a loud boom, his body was sent flying backward. He fell through the clouds like a cannonball, unable to control his descent. He crashed into the ground, creating a massive crater. Everyone in Qin City felt the earth tremble. Xiong Kunlun soon rose from the pit and flew back into the air. His injuries were healing rapidly before their eyes, but he looked rather disheveled, hair scattered, and his eyes focused more intensely on Su Zimo. "Is that all you've got?" Su Zimo asked, disappointed. "A holy son of a lineage with 3 grand emperors. This is it?" Xiong Kunlun didn't speak. He merely closed his eyes slightly, as if sensing something deeper. Chapter 747. Though I die, I am still the holy son of imperial throne. A heavy and strange aura slowly spread out around Xiong Kunlun. "A mountain need not be tall. It becomes famous with an immortal," Xiong Kunlun said slowly. His tone was calm and deep. A massive mountain gradually appeared behind him. The mountain was divided by the energies of Yin and Yang, vast and majestic. The mountain is called Kunlun, flowing eastward. On Mount Kunlun, the heavenly wind falls, and flutes play at the 24 bridges. As his voice fell, the phantom of the mountain behind him gradually became clear. "Kunlun Mountain, 9 cycles of yin-yang," Xiong Kunlun said as he slightly raised both hands. At that moment, the mountain above his head was lifted into his palms, as if he was holding up the heavens. On Kunlun Mountain, black and white energies of yin and yang intertwined and merged. They turned into 2 beams of yin-yang light, surging mightily into the sky. "Even if I lose, I want to fight you honorably and with all my strength," Xiong Kunlun roared. He carried Kunlun Mountain on his back, his waist bent under the weight. Blue veins bulged on his forehead as blood and sweat dripped from his head. "Kunlun within me, 9 cycles of yin-yang," Xiong Kunlun shouted again. The Kunlun Mountain behind him enlarged hundreds of times, merging with the yin-yang energies in the sky, pressing down towards Su Zimo. The heaven-shattering giant raised its arms and lifted Kunlun Mountain overhead. As the mountain fell, the giant's body sank half a meter under the pressure. Within Su Zimo, the power vortexes spun wildly, each reaching its limit. As more and more power flowed, the giant gradually stabilized. Xiong Kunlun struggled to control Kunlun Mountain, pushing it step by step to suppress Su Zimo. This was the limit of what his body could withstand. Still, he persisted, trying to fully suppress Su Zimo. As time passed, Xiong Kunlun's body was covered with deep wounds. Blood sprayed from them, and even his eyes were filled with blood. Cracks spread across his skin. If it went on, his body would shatter. "Enough!" Elder Bei from the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground shouted. "Kunlun, surrender!" "Elder, I won't!" Xiong Kunlun shook his head. Cracking sounds echoed from within his body. In life, success and failure are inevitable. The tides rise and fall. Surrender now, and return when your destiny awakens, Elder Bei yelled. He had watched Xiong Kunlun grow up and couldn't bear to see him perish. "Elder, I've had it too easy all my life. Undefeated among my peers, hailed as a prodigy by all, born into a lineage of 3 grand emperors. I can't accept failure," Xiong Kunlun shouted. "If I surrender today, I may never have the courage to face him again." "Why do this to yourself?" Elder Bei shook his head. Looking at Su Zimo, he said, "Young man, would you spare his life? We admit defeat. Name your compensation." "I don't like trouble. Since we've fought, it's to the death." Su Zimo smiled. "Do you not fear our Imperial Throne Sacred Ground's revenge?" Elder Bei narrowed his eyes. "You're welcome to try," Su Zimo laughed. Behind him, the heaven-shattering giant roared toward the heavens, raising Kunlun Mountain even higher. "I walk the path of cultivation, defying the heavens. The path of heaven's will is paved with bones. If I wish to become a grand emperor, Even if the whole world stands against me, so what? Hearing Su Zimo's words, the people of Crown City were shaken. To stand against the world, how confident must a man be to say such words? That guy! Qin Fusu's eyes twitched, and he swallowed hard. Young Master Su! Qin Shuang's gaze turned dazed as she stared. It wasn't until Qin Feng coughed that she snapped back to reality, her face flushing red. Father doesn't oppose you being together, Qin Feng said. But your body still needs a solution. Is it because you see young Master Su's potential that you changed your mind? Qin Shuang asked. Of course not. Qin Feng blushed and quickly explained. I knew he was extraordinary all along. I just wanted to test him a bit. He's a fine young man, he'll do. In the sky, Xiang Kunlun's body was on the verge of collapse. Even Elder Bei dared not act rashly. This level of battle was beyond even him. Kunlun, let go, many people are still waiting for you, Elder Bei said anxiously. Elder Bei, please tell Master that I'm ashamed to face him. I failed the Imperial Throne's sacred ground. The lineage gave me everything, and I, Kunlun, have no way to repay it. Xiang Kunlun said solemnly. I'm not worthy of becoming a Grand Emperor. Have you thought of Feiyu Qingyun? She's still waiting for you at the sect, Elder Bei said, still unwilling to give up. Tell Qingyun that if there's a next life, I won't be a holy son. I won't fight for heaven's will. I'll just live a quiet life with her, Xiang Kunlun said. His body had completely begun to fracture. With one final roar, he poured everything into it. Though I die, I am still the holy son of the Imperial Throne's sacred ground. Kunlun Mountain instantly radiated blinding light and descended with his final strength. Xiang Kunlun's body exploded. As the mountain fell, the world shattered, everything returning to void. Kunlun, Elder Bei shouted. Kunlun Mountain vanished, and the world turned empty and silent. Everyone looked toward where Su Zimo had stood in the void, hoping to see the outcome. A waste token swayed gently down from the sky in the wind. Elder Bei reached out and caught it. It was Xiang Kunlun's Holy Sun token. He stared around in confusion. From the void, Su Zimo calmly walked out, completely unharmed, clothes unwrinkled. From today onward, you are an enemy of my Imperial Throne's sacred ground, Elder Bei said quietly, his tone filled with murderous intent. Cool. Bring it on. Su Zimo shrugged indifferently. I am the current holy son of the true martial sacred ground. I'll be waiting for you at the lineage. Send as many immortals as you like. Hearing this, Elder Bei's pupils contracted. He turned his head in a daze, staring at Su Zimo. Su Zimo had originally wanted to kill him, but considering he was still in Qin City, he didn't want to drag the city into it, so he let him live. Ignoring Elder Bei, Su Zimo stepped through the air back into the Qin estate. He glanced at Qin Fusu and said coldly, If you ever come to Crown City again, I'll destroy Supreme Crown. Chapter 748 Blood Guards. Hearing Su Zimo's words, both Qin Fusu and Elder Qin Shang looked extremely displeased. But for the moment, they didn't dare talk back. After all, Su Zimo was a ruthless figure who had slain even Xiang Kunlun. Killing them now would be as easy as lifting a finger. Get lost, Su Zimo said calmly. Elder Qin Shang looked at Qin Feng. Seeing no reaction from Qin Feng, he pulled Qin Fusu away in humiliation. Only after they left did Qin Shuang lower her head and walk up to Su Zimo, grabbing his arm again. I'll leave you two to talk. I won't intrude, Qin Feng said with an awkward laugh, preparing to leave. No need, I'm leaving too. Just wanted to say goodbye. Su Zimo waved. Young Master Su. Qin Shuang looked at Su Zimo quietly, seemingly wanting to say something but hesitating. Talk to her. Qin Feng nodded. Whether you leave or stay is your choice. He could tell Su Zimo was someone born for the path of heaven's will. A man like that would never stay behind for love. Leaving was only a matter of time. He didn't want to interfere. This was something Qin Shuang would have to handle herself. When will you come back? Qin Shuang asked with a dim expression. When I find the Nirvana Fire Pearl, I'll come back to cure your underworld ice physique. Su Zimo smiled. Will I live to see that day? Qin Shuang murmured. If I want someone dead, even if they hide at the ends of the world, they'll die. If I want someone to live, then no matter what, be it your underworld ice physique or the wrath of heaven, I'll make sure they live brightly, Su Zimo said lightly. Promise me then. You're strong, but there are many strong people out there. Don't be reckless. Remember, many people care about you, Qin Shuang said as she helped straighten his robe, like a young wife sending her husband off. At the end, her face turned red, but she looked at Su Zimo and said, I'll always be here, waiting for you. Usually, after saying something like that, Qin Shuang would have lowered her head and avoided his gaze. But this time, even though her face was burning, she stubbornly met his eyes. Sure. Su Zimo smiled and patted her head. Wait for me. Qin Shuang nodded firmly. Then Su Zimo turned and left. The autumn wind circled above, and a few leaves and dust floated through the courtyard. Watching Su Zimo's back, Qin Shuang stood quietly in the yard, lost in thought. The wind is noisy today, Su Zimo muttered. Leaving Qin City, he headed toward the docks of the Endless Sky Sea. The distance to the eastern continent from the Endless Sky Sea was too great. Teleportation formations couldn't span such a long distance. So usually, one would take a ship to a transfer station on the Endless Sky Sea, then use a teleportation formation there to reach the eastern continent. The Endless Sky Sea here wasn't particularly beautiful. Or rather, most oceans were dangerous and filled with hidden threats. Hundreds of ships were docked along the coast, and the crowds onshore were packed, all seemingly waiting. Inns and restaurants had been built here in large numbers. It was bustling with people coming and going. Su Zimo glanced around. Most of the people here were merchants traveling between continents. Boatman, are you setting sail? Su Zimo asked a sailor on one of the ships. Young master, will set sail in 3 hours. The passengers aren't all here yet, the man replied. If you want a spot, you can pay now to reserve one, otherwise we might sell out later. It cost at least 10,000 spirit crystals to travel from here to the transfer station. Su Zimo didn't lack money. After paying, the sailor added, We leave at 7 sharp. We wait at most 10 minutes. Don't miss it. After giving a few instructions, Su Zimo wandered around the nearby camp. This was a simple rest stop for travelers waiting for their ships. Su Zimo casually walked into a tea house where several people were already seated. Old Qin, what are you going to the eastern continent for? I heard his kid got accepted into an imperial lineage there. He's going to visit, someone replied. People all around were chatting animatedly. Our middle continent is the sacred land. Why go so far to the eastern continent? The man named Qin was a rough-looking fellow. He smiled and said, My son has fate with the supreme primal sacred ground. Those imperial lineages aren't necessarily worse than ours. I heard the Endless Sky Sea isn't very safe lately. The Yu clan's ship capsized and never came back. Survivors said they encountered something strange. We'd best avoid travel for now. Su Zimo listened with interest. Just then, a dozen figures came running from the distance. They wore blood-colored robes and had red hair. A murderous aura surrounded them. They looked like executioners soaked in blood. When they reached the tea house, their leader pulled out a wanted poster. He looked at everyone and asked, Have you seen the person in this picture? The image showed a young man with pale skin and delicate features, about 20 years old. No. Everyone quickly shook their heads. If you see him, report it. Anyone who harbors a criminal will be treated as one, the leader said coldly before leaving with the blood-colored guards. After they left, everyone in the tea house let out a sigh of relief. Who were those people? So arrogant even in Supreme Crown. I think they're from the Jade City, someone muttered. Supreme Jade, like Supreme Crown and Supreme Tower, was one of the 9 cities. But in recent years, Supreme Jade no longer wanted to be one corner of the 9 cities. They declared themselves the Supreme Jade Dynasty. Their relations with the other 8 cities had since grown distant. Why are Supreme Jade's people so arrogant? Someone grumbled. They're not ordinary soldiers. They're the Blood Guards, someone said in shock. The Blood Guards. The moment that name was mentioned, everyone fell silent. The Blood Guards totaled 17. Besides their leader, who was at the Empyrean Meridian realm, the other 16 were all Imperial Meridian cultivators. They were all personal enforcers recruited by Supreme Jade, a hidden hand of the dynasty, tasked with eliminating their enemies in the shadows. Just imagine the kind of power that so many Imperial Meridians could bring. Who was that youth on the poster, to make the entire Blood Guard mobilize? Someone asked, shaken. Best not to get involved. Chapter 749, Driftwave Immortal Island. Setting sail. At 7 in the evening, the boatman shouted loudly at the dock. In front of the village, someone was striking a large drum with force, the signal to set sail. Everyone rushed out from the tea house and hurried to the docks. At this moment, several ships on the coast of the Endless Sea had already begun to depart. Su Zimo and the others quickly boarded the ship. Everyone had their own private cabin. On the tall mast of the large ship, the character Yu was written, indicating this was a vessel belonging to the Yu clan. In the evening, the sea rolled with waves that restlessly beat against the ship. Countless white foams floated atop the water, hiding who knows how much filth below. The sound of rumbling echoed all around as a bright spotlight shone from the bow, parting the sea in two. Just as the ship was about to depart, a group of people boarded from the distance. It was the same Blood Guards from earlier, people of the Supreme Jade dynasty. They waved their hands and ascended directly onto the ship's deck. Immediately, the other passengers on the ship tensed up. If they had a choice, no one would want to travel with this group of lunatics. Why are the Blood Guards on our ship? Someone whispered in curiosity. I heard the Yu clan is a clan within the Supreme Jade dynasty. Of course, they're on the same side, someone nearby explained. Let's just hope this trip stays peaceful. Su Zimo didn't pay them much mind and returned to his cabin to rest. He cultivated for an entire night, studying both the quantity of his power vortexes and the Heaven Unity 3 Gates God Scripture. The night passed without words. At dawn the next day, Su Zimo opened his cabin door and walked to the deck. The sunrise over the sea was exceptionally beautiful. A ray of early sunlight slowly rose from the east. The golden light filled the entire horizon. The sun itself obscured from view by the golden sky. Gradually, the golden light at the horizon faded and became more pure, tinged with traces of purple. Su Zimo sat on the deck, enjoying the scenic view of the ocean. As for the Blood Guards, they all sat cross-legged around the deck, meditating. Some sat on the mast, others in corners of the deck, some atop the cabin roof. Su Zimo didn't care. A servant brought him breakfast, placing it by his resting spot. As time passed, more passengers emerged from their cabins. At this ship speed, it'll take about 7 days to reach the transfer station, a middle-aged man said while eating, joining in the conversation. So what are you all going to the eastern continent for? That burly man named Old Chin, who was on the same ship as Su Zimo, laughed and said, I'm going to see my son. We're from Myriad Treasures Pavilion. We do business all across the continent, so we travel often, said two middle-aged men in golden robes with curled mustaches. I'm going home, Su Zimo replied. Do you know why the Blood Guards are here? The middle-aged man asked in a hushed tone. Why? Old Chin asked curiously. I'll tell you, but don't spread it, the man said. I was in the Supreme Jade Dynasty recently. I heard that a young man stole the Jade Monarch cauldron left behind by the former Jade Monarch, so now they're searching everywhere for him. What's the Jade Monarch cauldron? Old Chin asked. You really don't know? The man scoffed. The managers from Myriad Treasures Pavilion nodded and said, The Supreme Jade Dynasty is located at the center of 4 seas. The area they built in is easy to defend and hard to attack. With that terrain, it's said the Jade Monarch cauldron can calm all ocean storms and even control the sea. So it's extremely important to them. What if we found the Jade Monarch cauldron and auctioned it through Myriad Treasures Pavilion? What price would it fetch? Another manager asked enviously. Don't even think about it. Forget the auction. The Supreme Jade Dynasty would hunt you to the ends of the earth. As everyone chatted and joked, the ship suddenly began to shake. The once calm sea followed suit and began to churn. The crashing waves grew higher and higher, knocking over tables and chairs on the deck. What's going on? Someone shouted. Don't panic, everyone. We've encountered something, but there's no need to be afraid. Our ship has elite Clan guards and the Supreme Jade Dynasty's blood guards. Nothing will happen. The ship's supervisor came out to calm the crowd. The blood-clad man sitting atop the mast was the leader of the blood guards. He stared intently ahead, ignoring the raging sea around them. Suddenly, a pure divine light shot into the sky. Everyone looked ahead to see that an island had mysteriously appeared on the once empty sea. What is that? The crowd gasped at the sudden appearance. The waves around it seemed to calm, and the ship slowly came to a stop. Everyone stared in awe. The island looked like a giant beast lying on the sea. Its surrounding mountains shimmered with light, radiating every imaginable hue. The island towered high into the sky, too tall to see the top, exuding a strong aura of immortality as it proudly stood upon the endless sea. What is this? Someone muttered. An immortal island, someone nearby stammered. It is said that immortal islands exist in the world, seen only by those with great fortune. They float atop the endless sky sea, with no fixed location, no predictable trajectory. Legends say immortals live there, and they will teach the fortunate who find their way to these islands. Which immortal island is this? Someone asked. In the Eastern Sea there is Driftwave Island. 7,000 miles out, mirages appear, scattering into mist, gathering into form, ethereal and unpredictable. On the island lives a beast, shaped like an ox, blue-skinned with no horns, one-legged. Wherever it goes, storms follow. Its light shines like the sun and moon, its roar like thunder. Its name is Kuei. You think this is Driftwave Island? Someone exclaimed. This is the immortal island mentioned in legends. I wonder if the legendary Driftwave immortal is still alive, someone said with emotion. Are we going to set foot on the immortal island? People discussed anxiously. Go! Immortal islands are rare and fated. If we miss it, we may never encounter one again. Someone shouted, and over a dozen figures quickly flew toward it. The rest didn't rush. They watched cautiously. Just as those figures neared Driftwave Island, a beast's roar echoed from within. Moments later, all those figures were swallowed whole. Everyone froze in fear, no longer daring to approach. The immortal island still radiated brilliant light, giving off an air of deep mystery. Chapter 750. The immortal island has an immortal fairy. Everyone was a bit fearful upon seeing this scene. Although the mysterious immortal island was a treasure trove, it was also extremely dangerous. What do we do? Someone murmured. Just then, the leader of the blood guards stepped into the air. The sail on the mast fluttered in the wind as his figure moved swiftly, directly stepping onto Driftwave Island. Everyone watched intently. As he approached the island, another beastly roar rang out. The roar thundered like a storm, deafening the ears. A massive mouth lunged forward, but the leader remained calm, gently tapping his right foot midair to dodge the attack, and lightly landed on the island. The beasts inside seemed to roar even more fiercely, but the radiant light blocked everything, so no one could see clearly what was going on inside. Let's go too. Someone couldn't hold back anymore and tried to follow. Su Zimo smiled and also stepped forward. The closer he got to Driftwave Island, the more he felt the island's majesty and overwhelming presence. The island stood tens of thousands of meters tall, reaching 7,000 meters into the sea, deeply rooted into the earth, emitting a misty, immortal glow. When everyone reached the top of the island, they could finally see the scene inside. The leader was battling two ferocious beasts. The beasts were enormous, their entire bodies covered in dense, iron-blue fur. A small horn grew from their foreheads, and strangely, They each had only one leg. Their roars boomed like thunder, and their bodies shimmered with sunlight and moonlight. "That's a Kuei," someone exclaimed in surprise. "A mythical beast of Driftwave Island, said to be the mount of an immortal." "Then we shouldn't attack it. What if the immortal punishes us?" someone said urgently. "What's there to be afraid of? If the immortal were here, he would have shown up by now," someone sneered. "He's probably already ascended. If we want to enter Driftwave Island, we'll have to kill these two Kuei." After hearing this, some hesitated in place while others went to help the leader kill the beasts. Suzimo didn't rush. He flew halfway around Driftwave Island and discovered powerful barriers surrounding it. There was no way to fly in. The only entrance was the place guarded by the two Kuei. When he returned to the entrance, hundreds of people had already gathered. The two Kuei were lying on the ground, barely breathing, clearly near death. Everyone was rushing inside. Suzimo followed them in. Once they entered Driftwave Island, they all froze, stunned by the scene before them. The view stretched as far as the eye could see. The island was massive, with all kinds of flowers, plants, and trees blooming around them. The flowers blossomed in full competition, vivid and beautiful beyond compare. Purple, white, orange, plants of all kinds thrived here. A few white-eared rabbits saw the crowd enter and, rather than being afraid, curiously drooped their ears and stared. The air was pleasant, like a paradise detached from the world, too beautiful to destroy. Everyone walked among the flowers and trees, which, although ordinary, had a unique charm. Some people even got lost in it for a while. "This immortal island is so beautiful," someone sighed. "Yes, we shouldn't disturb its peace," another agreed, nodding. As they continued forward, the sound of flowing water reached their ears. In the distance, a colorful waterfall gently flowed down, its water unlike any ordinary stream. The waterfall cascaded 1,000 feet, descending from a series of layered rocks. In front of the waterfall, they saw a peach blossom grove. Hundreds of peach trees grew there, and the peach blossoms were in full bloom. Pink petals filled the air, dancing midair. Butterflies fluttered about. It truly felt like, when all the flowers of the mortal world have withered, the peach blossoms on the immortal island begin to bloom. "Is this where immortals live?" someone murmured. People kept walking deeper into the peach grove, as if entering another world, mesmerized by the beauty. The sound of flowing water came again from ahead. Everyone looked up. A multicolored pool appeared in front of them, filled with floating peach blossoms layered thickly. In the pool, a woman was sitting, apparently bathing. The peach blossoms obscured her graceful body's reflection, revealing only her long, wet black hair as she faced away from them. "An immortal maiden!" someone suddenly shouted. That immediately caught the woman's attention. In an instant, the once peaceful scene changed. Explosions rang out. Boom! 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 The waterfall exploded, sending up huge waves like bombs, instantly obliterating the pool. At that moment, the woman put on her clothes. Her jade-like feet stepped onto the rising spray, and she rose into the air. "Who are you?" she asked haughtily from midair. She wore a pink long dress that blended with the peach blossom grove around her. Everyone looked at her face, and for a moment, they were dazed. An oval face, fair skin tinged with soft pink, and a peach blossom mark on her forehead. She looked around 20 years old, with a high-nose bridge, resembling a beauty from the western regions. Peachwood flute hung at her waist. Her slender waist, easily held with one hand, was hidden beneath the long pink dress. She looked like a fairy descended to the mortal world, so divine that even looking at her felt like defilement. "An immortal maiden," someone murmured again. "How did you get on this island?" The woman frowned and asked again, but no one replied. Nearly everyone was lost in her beauty. "If you won't speak, then be buried here together," the woman snorted coldly. A golden bell dangled from her right wrist. As she gently waved her right hand, the bell began to ring. Ding, ding, ding. Along with the sound, the entire peach grove began to change. Countless peach trees started to shift and move. In an instant, the once heavenly landscape transformed. With the peach trees moving, it formed an ancient formation, a vast net that trapped everyone inside. A breeze passed. The woman stretched out her jade fingers and gently caught a falling peach petal. The petal instantly dispersed into pink powder that floated in the air. When someone inhaled the powder, blood gushed from their 7 orifices, and they died on the spot. "This is bad," someone finally realized and shouted. "Everyone wake up. This peach grove isn't ordinary." A sea of red mist covered the entire grove, trapping everyone inside. Chapter 751, Myriad Eras, Primordial Peach Tree. The peach trees grew to towering heights, blocking out the sky and connecting together to form a canopy that covered the heavens. In the pink mist, some people bled from all 7 orifices, some exploded and died, and others lost their minds and began killing each other. "Everyone, join forces to break this formation, or no one will leave alive," the leader of the Blood Guards shouted. Everyone had been deceived by the woman's appearance and aura. Once they realized what was happening, they didn't hesitate and all launched their strongest attacks at the formation. In an instant, countless bursts of spirit force were aimed at the formation. No one dared hold back. Just then, as if provoked, the peach trees went berserk. Each of them lashed out, opening gaping mouths and swallowing all the attacks and spiritual energy. Everyone was completely stunned by what they saw. How are we supposed to fight this? If it's a formation, it must have a core. "Everyone, find it quickly," the leader of the Blood Guards called out. As he spoke, several more people died violently. In the blink of an eye, fewer than 20 people remained alive inside the formation. They immediately began searching, but at that moment, the peach trees in the sky seemed to go mad, whipping their branches violently and stirring up a storm. Countless wind blades swept down from above. Several more people couldn't dodge in time and were shredded by the wind blades. "We can't hold on." Panic set in as the survivors began attacking aimlessly inside the formation. Su Zimo calmly sat cross-legged to the side. The heaven derivation astrolabe he had obtained from Heaven Ascension Holy Mountain revolved around him. This disk could deduce all formations in the world. Su Zimo hadn't used it much since obtaining it. But now, faced with this formation, it was worth trying out. All formations ultimately rely on the principles of Yin-Yang and the 8 trigrams, arranged according to the elements of nature. Mutual generation and restraint, similar to the 5 elements. In Su Zimo's mind, countless starlights rained down. The formation of these peach trees clearly involved the elements of wood and wind. As Su Zimo's deduction reached its peak, the heaven derivation astrolabe spun faster and faster, almost too fast to see. Next, Su Zimo took a deep breath and slowly stood up. He gently tapped a point within the formation with his right hand. As if triggering a central point, the entire formation began to tremble. A drop of fire flowed from his fingertip into the formation, and instantly, the entire formation burst into flames. The peach forest became fuel for the fire. The woman in the sky saw this, and a glint of surprise flashed in her eyes. She waved her right hand. From the nearby waterfall, a drop of multicolored water fell. In an instant, all the flames were extinguished, and the formation became even stronger. "Well, time to start deducing again." Su Zimo shook his head slightly. It was clear that this woman's mastery of formation arts had reached perfection. She could form a formation with a single glance. Such is the nature of formation arts. You said it, I break it. Now, fewer than 10% of the people inside the formation remained. Only 3 or 5 were still alive, and they had long lost the will to fight. Even the leader of the Blood Guards. They all knelt down and began begging for mercy. "Immortal Fairy, spare us. We didn't mean to disturb you. We just happened to see the Immortal Island appear in the endless sky sea and came to investigate." "The island has landed again?" the woman in the sky murmured to herself. "So it's been 10,000 years again." Her gaze turned cold as she said faintly, "You must have broken in. The entrance is guarded by the twin Kuei beasts. How did you get in? Since you're here, you might as well stay. She waved her right hand again, and the entire formation began to shrink. As it shrank, the space the survivors could move in grew smaller and smaller. Eventually, the woman clenched her right fist, and the formation shrank to the size of a small sphere before exploding. The entire peach forest trembled. The woman's figure slowly descended. Seeing that not even a trace of the people remained, she stepped barefoot onto the ground, her eyes gazing solemnly into the distance. Your way of welcoming guests is really heartbreaking. A voice suddenly echoed from afar. They say, "Isn't it a joy to have friends visit from afar?" "Who's there?" The woman snapped her head up. On the branch of a peach tree nearby, a young man in a purple robe was casually leaning against it. A saber was strapped to his back, and he had a bit of a rogue's air about him. A fish that slipped through the net. The woman snorted coldly, and the bell on her wrist rang again. A flurry of peach blossoms surged toward Suzimo. He shook his head with a smile and drew the curved blade in his hand. With a loud clang, countless waves of blade energy raged through the peach forest, shredding the peach blossoms into pieces. I advise you not to act again. This peach forest is too beautiful. I'd hate to destroy it, Suzimo said calmly. What do you want? The woman asked coldly. Just curious. Came to look around the immortal island. No harm intended, Suzimo replied. Then now that you've seen it, can you leave? She asked. I haven't checked behind that waterfall yet. Suzimo pointed to the multicolored waterfall. His divine sense had stretched out but seemed to be devoured by something. He could feel a terrifying presence lurking behind it. This is where your journey ends. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to use force to keep you here, the woman said as her eyes narrowed. I've always been the type to head straight into danger, Suzimo chuckled. He stepped into the air and flew directly toward the waterfall. The woman didn't rush after him. She slowly pulled out a flute from her waist. As she began to play, a massive peach tree's shadow appeared behind her. It was as if she had been born from this tree. It was the first peach tree to ever exist, its aura primitive and boundless. Peach blossoms bright and radiant, she softly chanted. Then the tree's shadow merged with her, crossing endless space and appearing in front of Suzimo. The shadow slowly solidified, turning into a real peach tree. It looked like a monstrous creature, thousands of meters tall, spanning nearly a quarter of the entire immortal island. Its branches were lush with leaves and hung full of peaches. Each blossom carried a primordial might. Incredible! Suzimo smiled lightly as he felt the aura. The myriad era's primordial peach tree. I didn't expect it to still exist. Chapter 752, Driftwave Immortal. I didn't expect to find an existence like you on Driftwave Island, Suzimo said with a light laugh. The peach tree didn't reply. It swung its massive branches. Like a dance of demons, each branch carried overwhelming might. Countless peach blossoms fell from the sky, merging with the branches to block Suzimo's path. Peach Chain's heart binding, came a soft shout. Suddenly, the branches sealing off Suzimo split into countless illusions. These illusions seemed ethereal as they passed through Suzimo's body, bringing a powerful force that tried to pull his soul out. Another soul attack, Suzimo laughed lightly. The peach tree wasn't known for physical attacks, but it excelled at confusing the mind and assaulting the soul. I didn't want to go through the trouble of killing you, but since you're courting death, don't blame me, the woman said coldly. As the pulling force from the peach tree intensified, Suzimo's entire body seemed to freeze. He gently shook his head. With the protection of the 9 Revolutions God Tower physique, he feared no soul attacks. The guardian beasts of the 9 Revolutions God Tower physique roared, and divine beasts began to appear. The howling sun wolf, the triple roar leopard. They bit at the peach branches, their sharp fangs quickly tearing them apart. The peach tree let out a pained and fierce roar. But the 2 guardian beasts weren't done yet. They directly lunged at the peach tree. The peach tree seemed frightened, hurriedly returning to human form and ringing the golden bell in her hand. Countless peach trees sealed off the two beasts. "Return," Suzimo called softly. The two guardian beasts immediately returned to the 9 towers. The peach tree woman looked shaken. She gazed deeply at Suzimo and said, "You must not go into that rainbow waterfall." "Why not?" Suzimo asked. "The drift wave immortal is meditating inside. If you disturb him, we'll both suffer," she said. "The drift wave immortal?" Suzimo chuckled and asked, "And who are you?" "I'm the Peach Blossom Fairy of Driftwave Island. My duty is to guard the immortal," she replied. "You, the ancestor of all peach trees, serving as a guardian for an immortal? This Driftwave immortal must be remarkable," Suzimo said. "The immortal and Driftwave Island are bound together. He has existed as long as the island has." "Think about that," the woman said. "Well, now I'm even more curious to meet him." Suzimo smiled. He stepped past the woman and walked toward the multicolored waterfall. The woman could only stand there anxiously, unable to stop him. "I've said my piece. If you insist on going, don't blame me when things go wrong," she shouted reluctantly. When Suzimo arrived at the rainbow waterfall, he realized the water was actually from the endless sky sea. The seawater flowed in from the other side of the island, traveled tens of thousands of kilometers, and arrived here. It was ordinary seawater at first, but somewhere along the way it absorbed some immortal energy and turned into multicolored celestial water. Walking through the rainbow waterfall, Suzimo saw a shaded stone path ahead, paved with gravel. Various rare flowers and plants lined both sides. The air was filled with a rich fragrance. Not far ahead stood a thatched cottage. From the skyline above, a beam of heavenly light shone directly over the cottage. Around it, the elements of sun, moon, stars, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth rotated continuously. This transformation occurred only around the cottage, affecting nothing else. "Is the immortal here?" Suzimo casually plucked a blade of grass, placed it in his mouth, and strolled toward the cottage, calling out loudly. Everything around was silent, no one answered. As Suzimo neared the cottage, there was a loud clang sound. As if a formation had been activated, a yin-yang symbol unfolded beneath his feet. Yin and yang transformed into the 5 elements, which cycled endlessly before finally stopping at the element of water. The entire symbol turned into a massive wave, surging and crashing, blocking Suzimo's approach. "The immortal strokes my head and grants me long life," came a long and clear voice from within the cottage. Next came a soft bang. The thatched cottage door opened, and an old man dressed in white robes, with white hair and a long white beard, radiated divine light as he walked out. "Little benefactor, what brings you to my Driftwave Island?" the old man asked with a smile. "I wanted to meet the legendary immortal," Suzimo replied, "to see if you're just a pretender or truly the real thing. Immortal is just a label. Everyone has their own definition of what it means. I think I'm an immortal, but that's only my opinion." The old man shook his head. "Since fate has brought you here, I'll give you an immortal seal. If fate allows, we'll meet again and speak of opportunities then." As he gently stroked his long beard, the old man used his other hand to draw a semicircle in the air. A white spirit mark emerged, floating towards Suzimo's forehead. However, as the mark touched him, the hell-suppressing demon physique within Suzimo reacted. Normally, when the demon physique was activated, a red mark would appear on his forehead. Now, stimulated by the celestial energy, the red mark flashed and devoured the white immortal mark. "This?" The immortal paused, and his expression changed. "A remnant of the ancient demon race," he murmured, his gaze turning strange. Suzimo looked at the Driftwave immortal with confusion, but he could clearly sense the killing intent hidden in the man's eyes. Well, what a surprise," the Driftwave immortal said with a chuckle. "You demons dare come to my immortal island. How audacious. Do we know each other?" Suzimo asked in confusion. "Since you've come, you might as well stay. I think the holy progenitor will be very interested," the Driftwave immortal said with a smile. He waved his hand, trying to suppress Suzimo. Suzimo narrowed his eyes and clenched his right fist. The power of creation surged, and he punched forward, piercing through the giant hand. Not bad. No wonder you had the guts to come to my Driftwave Island. The immortal snorted coldly. Raging tides. Next moment, endless streams of water burst from his body, rushing into the sky and forming countless powerful tornadoes of water. Dragon roars echoed through the air as the water storms surrounded Suzimo. Each storm rose dozens of meters high, with a massive dragon head at the top. Explosion! The Driftwave Immortal shouted. Chapter 753, Heavenly Court. As the voice of the Driftwave Immortal fell, the stormy tornadoes all went wild. The dragon heads above stirred up towering waves, all diving down toward Suzimo. Explosions thundered all around. The entire island trembled as if it were about to sink into the sea. With a loud boom, all the water exploded, sending jets shooting out and dispersing in all directions. The Driftwave Immortal stared at the center of the blast. When the mist cleared, a tall figure slowly walked out of the water vapor. This doesn't quite match the reputation of an immortal. Suzimo sighed and shook his head. You call that an immortal's attack? Boy, you're no ordinary member of the ancient demon race either. The Driftwave Immortal narrowed his eyes, gently stroking his beard. Must be some sort of vanguard figure. You talk too much. Suzimo shook his head. If you want me to see your so-called immortal form, then go ahead, he added with a cold snort. As his words fell, a surge of overwhelming immortal energy rose around him. The energy enveloped his body and shot straight into the sky. At that moment, the Driftwave Immortal emitted an aura of transcendence. Bathed in white light, his white robe and long white hair fluttered gently. Tiny specks of light circled within the white glow, and his eyes gleamed with clarity as if they could see through everything. A more powerful aura erupted from within. It was the aura of an immortal sovereign, just one step away from becoming an undying immortal. Boy, surrender now, the Driftwave Immortal shouted coldly. For seize domain. Suddenly, the entire Driftwave Immortal Island began to shake, with layer upon layer of ripples spreading out. Accompanied by rumbling explosions, the island slowly rose into the air. The vast endless sky sea surged violently. Seawater soared into the sky, forming a curtain of water. Water curtains from all four directions completely enveloped and concealed Driftwave Immortal Island. 30,000 miles of driftwave. I rule its rise and fall. The Driftwave Immortal roared, and the surrounding sea began violently churning and rushing. It was as if the water were his limbs, moving freely under his control. With a wave of his hand, countless waves surged like a torrent toward Suzimo. In the vast ocean, Suzimo appeared tiny. Like a lone boat in a storm, he seemed ready to be crushed at any moment. The impact of the sea was overwhelming, like a tsunami hitting full force. Let's see how long you can last, the Driftwave Immortal said coldly. He waved both hands again, and the sea churned even more violently. Layer upon layer of waves surged forth. For thousands of miles in every direction, only sea waves remained. It felt like the heart of all destructive power. One misstep and he'd be annihilated. Playing with water? Suzimo chuckled. With a wave of his right hand, one of the 5 spirit orbs, the soft water pearl, appeared. Lifting the soft water pearl, he held it up slowly. The small bead appeared pure, as if it contained the purest water in the world. Soft water, so heavy that even a feather cannot float upon it, and nothing can cross it. A single drop weighs tens of thousands of pounds, impossible to bear by human strength. As the bead emitted ripples, the raging seawater around them was suppressed by some mysterious force. It gradually calmed down. What is this? The Driftwave Immortal was stunned. He shouted again, For sea's domain, I am the master. But the entire sea remained calm, no ripples at all. No matter how hard he tried, the endless sea seemed completely suppressed. What did you do? The Driftwave Immortal asked in horror. He had lived on Driftwave Immortal Island for hundreds of thousands of years and ruled the sea as its absolute god, especially given his birth and cultivation. Yet now, in the domain of water, he was defeated by a member of the ancient demon race. The blow was so heavy he stood there in a daze. What did you do? The forces of the world or the nature of all things are nothing more than division and union, union and division, Suzumo said calmly. There are things you'll never understand. The origin of all water is not something you can resist. As he waved the soft water pearl, countless streams of water reversed course, twisting into ropes. These water ropes wrapped tightly around the Driftwave Immortal's arms and neck, suspending him in the air. Let me go, the Driftwave Immortal said, his voice trembling. As they say, the longer one lives, the more afraid of death, and this was perfectly true of him. Having spent countless years in comfort on Driftwave Immortal Island, he had long grown complacent. Boy, let me go, and I'll give you rewards, the Immortal said. I'm curious. Why do you hate our ancient demon race so much? Suzumo asked. You don't know about the Heavenly Court? The Driftwave Immortal asked in surprise. A being like you doesn't know the Heavenly Court? Suzumo frowned slightly and summoned the Seven Face from the god world. As soon as the Infernal Archon appeared, with his overwhelming demonic aura, the Driftwave Immortal was struck dumb with fear. Infernal Archon. My lord, is something the matter? Seven Face asked. Find out who this man is and also explain this heavenly court he mentioned. I'd like to know, Suzumo said. The Infernal Archon glanced at the Driftwave Immortal and chuckled. So it's just a little ant from the heavenly court. Who are you really? The Driftwave Immortal felt his throat go dry. This high-ranking Infernal Archon was actually bowing and showing respect to the young man before him. A terrifying thought formed in his mind, but he dared not follow it through. It was too horrifying. What is the heavenly court? Suzumo asked. We were going to wait until you reached the outer heavens to explain all this. It's still a bit early, the Infernal Archon replied. But since we've encountered it, I'll give you a brief explanation. Suzumo nodded slightly. Does my lord know who our true enemies are? The Infernal Archon asked. Suzumo shook his head. He had his guesses, but he knew it wasn't the full picture. In the outer heavens, our top enemies are the 10 god races, each possessing one of the 10 god bloodlines, the Infernal Archon said. Beyond that, there's the heavenly court founded by the Holy Progenitor. This heavenly court was established specifically to oppose our ancient demon race. Everyone in it calls themselves immortals. They are our sworn enemies, hypocritical to the core. The Infernal Archon looked at the Driftwave Immortal and continued. This guy is probably one of them, just a minor figure. Their holy progenitor, that one's interesting. Chapter 754, Emergence of Heaven's Will. Yes, I'm just a minor figure. Let me go and I'll immediately leave the heavenly court and stop opposing you, the Driftwave Immortal said hurriedly. Outer heavens. I'm really starting to look forward to it, Suzumo said. He looked at the Driftwave Immortal and asked, Where is your holy progenitor? I truly don't know. The holy progenitor's whereabouts are always a mystery. Someone like me has no way of ever meeting him. The Driftwave Immortal replied quickly. Then how do you normally communicate with the heavenly court? It's always the heavenly court's envoys who contact me. We have no way to reach out to them ourselves, the Immortal explained. If you're useless for everything, then what's the point of keeping you? Suzumo snorted. With that, he crushed the Immortal's head with one hand, tearing his soul apart. With a soul-wrenching scream, the Driftwave Immortal's body collapsed to the ground. Suzumo let Seven Face return to the god world. Thinking about the outer heavens, he felt both pressure and anticipation. Walking past the multicolored waterfall, Suzumo entered the Immortal's house. The room wasn't large, with only a single meditation cushion. Directly in front was a table covered with offerings, various immortal fruits. On the wall above the table hung a portrait. A lifelike, vivid painting. It depicted an old man in a white robe, transcendent and otherworldly. The old man gazed toward the edge of the skyline, his expression solemn and concerned for the world. A celestial deer sat beneath him. The deer radiated immortal energy, surrounded by silver halos. Its body sparkled like it was embedded with thousands of stars, constantly flickering, like the stars across the heavens. Suzumo stared quietly at the painting. It felt as if the old man in the image turned to face him and made eye contact. The next moment, the painting suddenly burned to ash and scattered into the air. "Hello and goodbye," Suzumo whispered and left the thatched hut. Crossing through the sea of flowers and stepping through the multicolored waterfall, he returned to the peach forest, where the woman sat on a nearby rock watching him. You, she was speechless for a while. "What's wrong?" Suzumo asked. "What did you do to the Driftwave Immortal?" she asked. "He's dead. You're free now. Shouldn't you be happy?" Suzumo said with a smile. "You killed him." The woman looked at Suzumo in shock. "Who exactly are you?" "Doesn't matter. Just think of me as a passerby," Suzumo said as he shook his head and left. Watching his departing back, the woman hesitated for a moment, then slowly walked toward the area behind the waterfall. Leaving Driftwave Immortal Island, everyone who had come with Suzumo was dead. He was the only one who emerged from the island. The ship was still anchored not far away amidst the waves. After the turmoil, the endless sky sea was now unusually calm. Suzumo walked across the calm sea surface, step by step toward the ship. Now more than half of the crew was gone. Only a few low-level cultivators who hadn't dared to enter Driftwave Immortal Island remained. "Why is it just you who came back?" someone asked Suzumo in confusion. "They're all dead. Set sail," Suzumo said flatly with a wave of his hand. "All dead? What kind of joke is that? Then why are you still alive?" Someone questioned in disbelief. But before he could finish, a flash of blade energy passed by, and his head rolled to the deck. "I hate repeating myself." The massive ship roared as it began to move. Suzumo stared deeply at the calm sea. Everyone aboard the ship was silent, keeping their distance from Suzumo in fear. He was happy to be left alone. On the 7th day at sea, the weather turned gloomy and oppressive. The sky was gray and colorless, blending into the dull ocean. That afternoon, Suzumo, holding his curved blade, leaned against the upper deck, resting with his eyes closed. He suddenly sensed something and looked up at the gray sky. The next moment, the entire sky changed. A dazzling light beam pierced the clouds, coloring everything it touched. The sky lit up with blinding brilliance, and the surrounding spiritual energy began to surge wildly. Like tidal waves, the overwhelming energy rushed toward the sky. At the center of the radiance, a terrifying force was brewing. Waves of ripples devoured the entire void. In an instant, storms erupted across the sea, and the ship rocked violently. Suzumo stared intently into the center of the light. The brilliance there was more dazzling than the sun. He couldn't imagine the power contained within, and spirit force from all around continued to pour toward that central point. Moreover, all the elemental energies of the world were being drawn into the depths of the light. It was as if the sky had been torn apart, and the space around the light became completely separate. That place had become an independent domain. This is... Someone aboard the ship widened their eyes, frozen in place and speechless. Heaven's radiance shining, yin and yang severed, the convergence of all forces. "It only happens once in an era," an elder muttered. "Heaven's will is about to emerge." At that moment, the entire continent trembled. Whether it was the other 4 continents or the middle continent, whether it was imperial lineages, hidden sealed lands, or the 10 forbidden grounds, the entire world was shaken by the beginning of heaven's will. At that moment, deep within the infinite immortal mountain, Jiang Macho slowly opened his eyes. He looked up at the sky, into the depths of the blazing light. That was where all paths led. In a hidden corner of the primordial heartlands, Tangeline also opened her eyes and gazed deeply at the sky above. Her aura grew heavier and more intense, full of resolve. Meanwhile, in the Bailey imperial clan of the eastern continent, the Lord of Samsara had just found Bailey Shao. As they conversed, both looked toward the distant sky. "It's finally here," Bailey Shao said coldly. "The formation of heaven's will is not a matter of a moment. Cannot be completed in an instant. It absorbs the essence of an entire era and only becomes complete when it reaches perfection. For now, heaven's will had only just begun, still gathering the world's might. Its full formation was some distance away. But even so, everyone now felt the pressure. Since it had already begun, it meant everything now had to proceed on schedule. After drifting for more than 7 days, the ship in the endless sea finally arrived at the transfer station. Chapter 755, Dragon Tiger God. This was a vast transit station. From here, one could use the teleportation formation to reach almost any city across the eastern continent. After disembarking from the ship, the passengers all scattered, each keeping their distance from Su Zimo. Su Zimo intended to teleport to a city under the jurisdiction of the true martial sacred ground. He first headed to a nearby tavern to get something to eat. By the window, the tavern owner brought out a pot of wine and several plates of meat. As Su Zimo ate, a group of people suddenly burst into the tavern. "Hand it over," said one man, slamming his long knife onto Su Zimo's table. "Hand over what?" Su Zimo looked up at the group. There were about a dozen of them, all wearing black robes, their faces fierce and menacing. "They're from the Slaughter Gang. Everyone better clear out," someone in the tavern warned. "What's the Slaughter Gang?" others asked, confused. "They're the biggest gang in this transit hub. I heard their backing is strong, and they're extremely overbearing. Many people have suffered under them," someone explained. "Stop pretending." The leader of the gang snorted coldly. Looking at Su Zimo, he said, "Do I need to spell out the Immortal Island's treasure? You people really aren't afraid to die." Su Zimo shook his head slightly. "There was no treasure. I was just lucky to escape with my life." He didn't need to guess. It was obvious that someone on the ship had spread the story. After all, he was the only one who came out of Driftwave Immortal Island alive. "I don't believe you unless I search your storage ring," the leader said. "You've ruined my appetite," Su Zimo muttered, shaking his head. He shouted toward the hiding tavern owner, "Hey boss, come collect the corpses." As soon as he finished speaking, the others hadn't even reacted yet. The gang members only felt a chill on their necks before they could speak. Their heads were already falling to the floor. Everyone stood frozen, then collapsed with their severed heads. "What a mood killer!" Su Zimo glanced at the food and wine on the table, then stood and walked out of the tavern. Only after he left did the hiding patrons cautiously emerge. Looking at the bodies of the Slaughter Gang all over the floor, they were left with a headache. Su Zimo went straight to the teleportation point. After scanning his options, he ultimately chose to teleport to Dragon Tiger City. This city was located within the territory of the true martial sacred ground, one of many cities it governed. Not many people were headed there, so after waiting in line for about half an hour, Su Zimo stepped into the teleportation formation. During the long spatial passage, Su Zimo focused on cultivation. Now that heaven's will was beginning to form, the pressure on everyone was growing heavier. His internal force vortices had already condensed to 1,000, near their limit. To go further, he'd need a full breakthrough of his physique. Now, he was attempting to enter the second stage by condensing force vortices within his soul. This required great caution, as the soul was fragile and recovered much slower than the body. As the saying goes, time flies during cultivation. After a long while, Su Zimo slowly opened his eyes from meditation. The space in front of him tore open, and he stepped onto the land of Dragon Tiger City. Dragon Tiger City wasn't particularly large. Located in the eastern region of the true martial sacred grounds domain, it was a mid-sized city. Not bustling, but not deserted either. The dragon and tiger were symbols of this place. When Su Zimo arrived, it was just morning. The sky was dimly lit. Vendors pushed carts through the streets, and the city seemed to be awakening from a long night's sleep. At the city's center stood a massive dragon tiger statue. The statue had the head of a dragon and the body of a tiger, standing proudly in the middle of the large city. It was surrounded by guardrails, and no one was allowed near. As the cool morning deepened, the citizens of Dragon Tiger City began gathering around the statue. "Hurry up! It's the day of worship. If we're late, we won't get a good spot," someone urged. "What's the rush? It's all the same prayer. You think the Dragon Tiger God plays favorites?" Someone else grumbled. "We've been praying for years and never seen any divine signs. You people are just superstitious." A young man in the crowd scoffed. "There's no such thing as the Dragon Tiger God. That time would be better spent cultivating." "Watch your mouth. You think you can speak about the gods however you like?" An old man shouted angrily. The young man shrank back, no longer daring to speak. Su Zimo watched from the side, amused. He stepped forward and smiled as he asked, "Elder, I just arrived in Dragon Tiger City today. What are you all doing?" "Young man, you're in luck." The old man sized up Su Zimo and smiled. "Today's the day we worship the Dragon Tiger God. Join the ceremony and you'll be blessed with good health and a smooth future." "What is the Dragon Tiger God?" Su Zimo asked as he walked alongside the old man's group. "That's a very old legend," the elder recalled. "Long ago, monsters ravaged the land outside the city. Dragon Tiger City was remote, and residents of the northern district faced death every time they went out. Then the Dragon Tiger God arrived, drove the monsters away, and protected the city, granting us peace ever since. It's said that whenever the city faces mortal danger, the Dragon Tiger God will appear to protect us." Su Zimo smiled at the story. He noticed more and more people gathering at the statue. The crowd had filled nearly the entire plaza. Even street vendors holding incense and offerings had joined in. Not particularly interested in the Dragon Tiger God, Su Zimo left the square and headed out of the city. Dragon Tiger City had a unique layout. A long river cut across half the city, splitting it into two parts. Lotus flowers bloomed on the clear river, which was usually filled with fishing boats and busy fishermen. But today, with everyone worshipping the Dragon Tiger God, the lively riverbanks were empty. Looking around, Su Zimo saw only one fishing stall on the left side, where a middle-aged man in a yellow conical hat was quietly cleaning fish. Behind him, a fishing boat drifted, recently docked. "Boatman, can you take me across?" Su Zimo approached and asked. "Want to buy fish?" The middle-aged man looked up, his face lined and weathered, clearly in his 40s. "No fish, just the boat ride." Su Zimo shook his head. The man nodded, silently set down the fish, and unbuckled the black leather apron from his waist. Then he boarded the boat and gestured for Su Zimo to follow. Chapter 756 Little Gue Gravely Injured. "Get on the boat," the middle-aged man said, beckoning to Su Zimo. Su Zimo stepped onto the small boat. The man rowed, and the boat slowly drifted across the clear river. They all went to worship the Dragon Tiger God. "Why didn't you?" Su Zimo asked curiously. "There's no need. The Dragon Tiger God guards the city for his own reasons, not because he wants the people's worship," the man said, shaking his head with a smile. His strokes were rhythmic, as if following a specific tempo. "You're interesting," Su Zimo said, smiling. "You're not from Dragon Tiger City, are you?" the man asked. "No, just passing through," Su Zimo nodded. "How did you know?" "Thousands come and go from Dragon Tiger City every day. I have a good sense of them all," the man chuckled. "I've lived here a long time." "So you've been guarding this city all along?" Su Zimo said calmly, looking at the end of the river. The water was crystal clear, lotus flowers in bloom, white blossoms like girls dancing in white skirts. Hearing Su Zimo's words, the man looked up and stared deeply at him. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course the Dragon Tiger God wouldn't need to worship himself," Su Zimo laughed. "Don't worry. I mean no harm, and I have no interest in your city." The man studied Su Zimo for a moment, then took off his yellow conical hat. When he did, Su Zimo noticed that the man's hair was yellow, and he had a pair of tiger ears, very unique. You? Su Zimo was slightly stunned. He hadn't expected this. He had only sensed the strong demonic aura from the man earlier, which led him to probe. I used to be a resident of this city, the man smiled. Later, I came upon a stroke of fate and ended up like this. I guard this place because I love it. Good luck, Su Zimo said with a smile. The boat had reached the other shore. No fare for you, consider it payment for keeping my secret, the man said with a grin. Watching the boatman row away, Su Zimo shook his head with a smile. The man was like a guardian deity of Dragon Tiger City. If danger struck, he would surely rise to protect it. But normally he lived in seclusion, unnoticed by others. How laughable that the city's people only knew to worship a dead statue. After leaving Dragon Tiger City, Su Zimo was not far from the true martial sacred sect. He summoned the dark sky tiger and rode off into the distance. The season of autumn rain arrived. Heavens will continued forming in the sky, unaffected by anything. Elsewhere, light rain began to fall, and the cool breeze brought both freshness and a slight chill. Through the drizzle, Su Zimo arrived at a valley before nightfall. The rain seemed to be picking up, so he stopped beneath a dense tree for shelter. He patted the dark sky tiger's back. The tiger rose and uprooted several large trees, placing them around Su Zimo to block the rain. Su Zimo wrung the moisture from his clothes and was preparing to enjoy the autumn rain when footsteps reached his ears. Looking up, he saw a group of people in red robes approaching. Their robes were bright crimson, with the character Nether printed on the back. Su Zimo recognized the attire, one of the imperial lineages of the eastern continent, the Blood Nether Sacred Ground. There's someone here, one of them said. The others quickly looked toward Su Zimo. Not him, someone nearby said, shaking his head. They walked up to Su Zimo. The leading disciple looked down at him arrogantly and asked, Hey, kid, did you see a man and a woman pass by here? I just got here, Su Zimo replied, and I don't like your tone. You've got some attitude. The disciple sneered and raised his sword to strike Su Zimo. Su Zimo merely lifted his eyelids and glanced at them. With several loud explosions, the entire group was crushed by a powerful force and exploded on the spot. Well, the imperial lineages sure like to throw their weight around, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. Ignoring the blood and broken bodies, he mounted the dark sky tiger and headed deeper into the valley. Any filth left behind would be washed away by the rain. After walking some distance, Su Zimo smelled a faint scent of blood. There were also bloodstains not yet washed away by the rain. 2 steps further, he triggered a trap. A string snapped, and countless poison tree spikes shot toward him. These spikes were coated with deadly venom. Contact meant death by flesh rotting away. Su Zimo waved his hand, obliterating all the spikes. His gaze shifted to a nearby cave, where he sensed someone hiding. Come out, Su Zimo said calmly. After a brief hesitation, a figure darted from the cave and bolted into the distance. But they had only taken a single step before Su Zimo froze them in place. Turn around, Su Zimo said coldly. The rain poured down from the sky. It drummed on leaves and echoed through the valley, sounding both chaotic and strangely quiet. As the figure slowly turned, Su Zimo's eyes widened. You? The two said in unison, surprised. Yao Shengnan, what are you doing here? What are you hiding from? Su Zimo asked. Lord Su, I don't have time to explain. Please, save Gillen, Yao Shengnan cried. What happened to little Gue? Su Zimo frowned. He's in the cave, he's dying, Yao Shengnan said urgently. Seeing her panicked expression, Su Zimo realized something serious had happened. He followed her into the cave, where he found little Gue lying in a pool of blood on a raised rock. His body was covered in wounds, large and small, and he was barely hanging on, soaked in blood. How did this happen? Su Zimo asked with a frown. It was the Blood Nether Sacred Ground. They're hunting us, Yao Shengnan replied quickly. Chapter 757, The Immortal Fairy Fuyao. Blood Nether Sacred Ground? Su Zimo frowned slightly. He recalled the group he had encountered earlier. The man and woman they had mentioned were likely Little Gue and Yao Xingnan. Su Zimo reached out to examine Little Gue's condition. He was gravely injured, with one foot already in the underworld. External wounds aside, his internal organs were completely shattered. He was barely clinging to life with a single thread of true energy. If that energy dissipated, he would truly die. Even with Su Zimo's current power, once someone was dead, the only way to reverse it would be to use the time pearl given to him by the Time Emperor to reverse space and time itself. But that pearl was extremely rare. Could save one life, and to Su Zimo that was equivalent to a life of his own. He wouldn't waste it. He placed his right hand on Little Gue's forehead and activated the Tree of Life within him. Endless life force flowed into Little Gue's body. Su Zimo carefully controlled the flow of power. Little Gue's body was far too fragile now. Any sudden movement could shatter that thread of life-sustaining true energy. He first focused on healing Little Gue's internal organs. It took several hours before Su Zimo finally pulled Little Gue back from death's door. Once his organs began to function again, Su Zimo quickened his pace, helping restore external wounds and other damaged areas. As time passed, Little Gue's complexion gradually became rosy. His color returned, and his breathing stabilized into a steady rhythm. Su Zimo took a deep breath. Though it hadn't drained him physically, the prolonged mental focus had taken a toll. He looked at Little Gue, now out of danger. Yao Xingnan quickly asked, "Young Master Su, is Gillen okay?" "He's stable for now. Let him rest. He needs time to regain strength." Su Zimo nodded. He took out a healing pill from his storage ring and handed it to Yao Xingnan. It was clear she was also wounded, just not as seriously as Little Gue. After taking the pill, she sat down cross-legged to recover. Eventually, she exhaled a deep breath, and her complexion looked better. "Thank you, young Master Su," Yao Xingnan said gratefully. "Now tell me what happened," Su Zimo asked with a frown. Little Gue had followed him for a long time. Aside from Lin Ruhu, he was one of Su Zimo's closest friends. "Sigh, this is all my fault," Yao Xingnan sighed, then began to explain. "There's a legend in the Eastern continent about a peerless beauty named Immortal Fairy Fuyao." "You mean the wife of Grand Emperor Tai Yuan," Su Zimo replied. Grand Emperor Tai Yuan had once risen from humble origins to become a Grand Emperor, a feat that shook the ancient world. His journey was incredibly difficult. But in the end, he achieved greatness, and his wife, Immortal Fairy Fuyao, was renowned as the most beautiful woman in the Eastern continent. Yes, the legend says Grand Emperor Tai Yuan ascended to the outer heavens, but his wife, Fuyao, chose to remain on primordial heartlands, Yao Xingnan said. Recently, the ruins of Immortal Fairy Fuyao were discovered, causing a major stir. It said she had a beauty crown. Whoever wears it gains greatly enhanced cultivation efficiency and eternal youth. "That's not so rare," Su Zimo muttered. "There were plenty of things that preserved youth. True martial sacred ground had better." "Let me finish. There's also a rumor that whoever obtains the beauty crown inherits Fuyao's legacy," Yao Xingnan said sadly. "I once casually mentioned that the crown was forged from the rarest celestial crystals in the world by Grand Emperor Tai Yuan, an unrivaled token of love. Gillen took it to heart and set out to find it." "So that's what led to the conflict with Blood Nether Sacred Ground?" Su Zimo asked. "Those scum are despicable. We had already obtained the crown," Yao Xingnan said angrily. "But they ambushed us, and because Gillen is a core disciple of true martial sacred ground, they tried to kill us to cover it up. A minor lineage like Blood Nether dares such things?" Su Zimo sneered. "The mastermind is their holy son. He's said to be infatuated with the saintess of the Qi imperial clan. He wants to give her the crown as a token of affection," Yao Xingnan added quickly. "The holy son of Blood Nether Sacred Ground. He's not exactly polite," Su Zimo said lightly. "His name is Xue Ziyuan, ruthless and cunning. They say he even surpasses his sacred lord," Yao Xingnan explained. "These past few years, his reputation in the Eastern continent has grown from killing alone. No one dares provoke him." "Interesting," Su Zimo smiled. Bring little Gue. Let's go find him. Should we ask the sect for help? This involves an imperial lineage, Yao Shengnan said, worried. Imperial lineage? They're nothing. Let's go. Su Zimo waved her off and walked outside. The heavy rain still poured down. Thunder rumbled across the sky, echoing like the heavens were roaring in fury. The entire valley was drenched in the rainy season. Yao Shengnan carried little Gue and hurried after Su Zimo. After walking a dozen meters, a group of people rushed toward them. Judging by their uniforms, they were disciples of the Blood Nether Sacred Ground. There they are, just ahead, someone shouted excitedly. Before they could say more, Su Zimo raised his right hand slightly. Several bolts of lightning crashed from the sky, exploding on impact. Everyone except the leader was obliterated. The leader gasped at the sight and swallowed hard. He tried to run, but his legs trembled. He didn't have the strength to flee. Please spare me, the leader said, voice trembling as Su Zimo approached. Answer a few questions, Su Zimo said calmly. Who sent you? The Holy Sun. It wasn't my idea. I'm just a messenger, the leader replied quickly. Where is he? In Phoenix River City, not far from here, the leader answered. How bold, to kill our disciples on true martial sacred grounds land. Who gave him the courage? Su Zimo snorted coldly. With a cracking sound, he twisted the man's head 360 degrees. Then Su Zimo walked out of the valley, heading toward Phoenix River City. Rain poured down. The city's tall walls loomed in the distance, hazy in the storm. Step by step, Su Zimo approached. With every step, his aura grew stronger. Chapter 758, Holy Son of Blood Nether. The aura around Su Zimo grew increasingly powerful. With each step he took, endless ripples spread out around him. The pressure became so intense it seemed to suppress the surrounding heaven and earth. He looked up calmly, gazing at the vast city ahead. Phoenix River City was a major city. Atop the city walls stood a four-headed crane balanced on one leg, each head facing a different direction, east, west, south, and north. When the wind cranes cry together, they pierce the heavens. This was the calmest day Phoenix River City had seen. Outside, torrential rain poured down, and the streets were nearly deserted. Pedestrians hurried home, and others sat in drinking wine, enjoying the rainy season. Under moss-covered eaves, the rain fell in a steady line. Suddenly, the earth began to shake. The eaves trembled slightly, and the straight rain lines became scattered and chaotic. What's going on? People inside the city looked toward the distance in surprise. An intense pressure descended from the sky, as if aiming to envelop and suppress all of Phoenix River City. Su Zimo stepped up to the city gate, his aura now as mighty as a dragon, coiled around him like a celestial serpent. With every step he took, deep footprints were left on the ground. The force crushed the ground with crackling sounds. Who dares trespass in Phoenix River City? An old man in a blue robe shouted from the top of the wall, backed by a group of guards. Looking at Su Zimo, he was secretly shocked. The aura emanating from this man was too powerful. Even looking from afar, he felt immense pressure. I don't know what business this esteemed figure has in our city. The old man cautiously softened his tone and asked, Are you the city lord of Phoenix River City? Su Zimo asked calmly. I'm not. But if you have anything to say, I can make decisions, the old man replied. Su Zimo didn't bother explaining. He simply tossed his Holy Son's token to the man. These lands within millions of kilometers were all governed by the true martial sacred ground. Naturally, the cities followed their orders. As a Holy Son of the sect, Su Zimo had authority here. The old man took the token with suspicion. After examining it, his expression changed drastically. He immediately offered the token back with both hands and said loudly, Greetings, Holy Son. Upon hearing this, all the guards nearby quickly knelt down and shouted in unison. Bring your city lord to me. Su Zimo waved and said, Please wait, Holy Son. I will fetch the city lord right away, the old man said, bowing slightly. Not long after, An elegant middle-aged man in white robes was brought by the old man. Su Zimo entered Phoenix River City, and both men quickly dropped to one knee. City Lord Feng Tianhe of Phoenix River City greets the Holy Sun, he said. I don't know what business brings you to Phoenix River City? There's someone you should be familiar with, Su Zimo said. Please command me, Feng Tianhe replied immediately. The Holy Sun of the Blood Nether Sacred Ground, Shueziyuan, Su Zimo said word by word. He's in Phoenix River City. Help me find him. This, Feng Tianhe hesitated slightly. What's wrong? Su Zimo frowned, looking at Feng Tianhe. To tell the truth, the Holy Sun of the Blood Nether Sacred Ground is currently a guest at my residence. Feng Tianhe replied quickly. Well, how generous of you, Su Zimo said coldly. Shueziyuan is hunting down a core disciple of our true martial sacred ground. And not only do you not help, but you host him? Hearing Su Zimo's words, Feng Tianhe's face changed drastically. Holy Sun, please understand, I had no idea. He came as a guest and I couldn't just drive him out, he said quickly. Then take me to him, Su Zimo said. Feng Tianhe quickly nodded. He knew that Su Zimo was not only a holy son, but also the son of the Sex Vice Lord. Compared to the Blood Nether Sacred Ground, he couldn't afford to offend Su Zimo. They entered the City Lord's mansion and walked directly into the main hall. At the moment, the hall was filled with music and dance. Several graceful dancers were performing provocative dances. Various delicacies were laid out on the tables, and a young man in red robes sat at the head, watching with interest. A bloodthirsty gleam shone in his eyes. Seeing Feng Tianhe return, the young man smiled and asked, City Lord Feng, all settled? Feng Tianhe didn't respond. He waved his hand and told the dancers, You may leave. What's the matter, City Lord Feng? The young man in red robes asked, slightly puzzled. Feng Tianhe smiled and gestured, Let me introduce. This is the Holy Sun of our true martial sacred ground, Su Zimo. The young man in red sized up Su Zimo and then stood up, smiling. I've long heard of your name, Brother Su. You always appear like a dragon. Heard of, but rarely seen. As the young man examined him, Su Zimo also looked at him. Earlier, he had asked the old man to escort Yao Shinan and Zhang Gilin Little Gue to rest. Shueziyuan wore a blood-red robe. A noticeable scar crossed his neck. He had a short, flat haircut, a rugged face, and eyes as sharp as a hawk's. Thin lips, hooked nose, and behind him, a spiked mace. The mace was entirely white, like it was made of jade, crystal clear. Its spikes were all inward-facing, dense and sharp, reflecting a chilling light. I have just one question, Su Zimo smiled and said. Please, ask freely, Shueziyuan said with narrowed eyes, smiling. How do you want to die? Su Zimo asked flatly. Shueziyuan's expression didn't change, but the aura around him gradually began to rise. Brother Su, what a joke. With heavens will forming, what's the rush? Su Zimo chuckled and thrust his hand toward Shueziyuan with a suppressing force. Feeling the overwhelming pressure, Shueziyuan's expression changed. His spiked mace flew into his hand, and he struck at the giant hand. But his strength was inferior. He was sent flying by Su Zimo's palm. Shueziyuan crashed into the side wall of the hall. Su Zimo walked outside. The torrential rain still fell with a deafening roar. Shueziyuan rose from the muddy ground, gripping his mace tightly. A newly awakened God Meridian aura surged around him. He looked at Su Zimo and said calmly, Brother Su, are you trying to start a war between our two lineage? Even if you want to kill me, there should be a reason. You want me to explain how you hunted down a core disciple of my lineage? Su Zimo countered. Sigh, I've been exposed after all. Shueziyuan laughed aloud. He wiped the rain from his face and smirked. Didn't expect to meet you so soon. Chapter 759, Infinite Blood Prison. I was originally planning to face off with you holy sons after the heavens will fully formed. Shueziyuan chuckled. But now is as good a time as any. I've heard of your reputation. You talk too much, Su Zimo shook his head slightly. This Xue Ziyuan wasn't even on par with Xiang Kunlun, just early-stage God Meridian. Once heavens will fully formed, and with help from an imperial lineage, he might reach peak God Meridian and fight for heaven's will. Su Zimo swung his hand, and a massive palm formed from immense spirit force slammed toward Xue Ziyuan. Xue Ziyuan focused his mind and raised his spiked mace high. Blood light radiated from the mace, reflecting across the surroundings as it collided with Su Zimo's giant hand. In just a moment, the blood light was overwhelmed and the palm continued its descent. Xue Ziyuan was slightly surprised and quickly dodged through the air. He looked at Su Zimo seriously, then swung his mace again. At that moment, countless blood threads emerged around the spiked mace. These threads were formless and intangible, existing like phantoms. They wrapped around from all directions, encircling Su Zimo. "Blood mace of judgment," Xue Ziyuan shouted. The barbs on his mace suddenly extended violently with immense power, striking toward Su Zimo. At the same time, the red threads surrounding Su Zimo grew agitated. They formed a blood-colored hell, pulling Su Zimo's senses into it. A dual attack on the soul and the body? Su Zimo chuckled. This kind of technique was rare, extremely rare. Thunder flickered in his eyes. The heavenly tribulation god eyes opened wide, lightning swirling within them. A blast of thunder tore through the illusion, shredding the blood hell. Su Zimo opened his eyes, and the spiked mace was already within reach. He calmly raised his right hand and easily caught the weapon. No matter how hard Xue Ziyuan tried, it was useless. Su Zimo tightened his grip slightly, and with a loud bang, the spiked mace, made from some unknown material, turned to powder. Su Zimo's left palm then struck Xue Ziyuan's abdomen. With a thunderous boom, a cloud of blood erupted, and Xue Ziyuan's body was sent flying. The pouring rain completely soaked Xue Ziyuan's body as he lay on the ground. Su Zimo looked on calmly. He could tell the man wasn't dead. His true fate hadn't emerged yet. The next moment, a red aura slowly drifted from Xue Ziyuan's body, growing more and more intense. It formed into the shape of a blood-colored skull. The skull opened its mouth, and countless strands of black gas flowed from its mouth and nose. These black vapors coalesced into hideous faces. Elderly, children, women. They were all people Xue Ziyuan had killed. Countless faces appeared. With more and more black gas, there had to be tens of millions of souls. Suddenly, loud laughter erupted from the rain. Xue Ziyuan staggered to his feet from the mud. He was covered in blood, his abdomen deeply sunken from Su Zimo's palm strike. But he still stood, laughing wildly. Blood poured endlessly from his mouth. His body soaked in blood, he looked like a walking corpse. Refreshing. Truly refreshing. Xue Ziyuan laughed madly. As the blood mist thickened, his aura grew stronger. "I haven't felt pain like this in a long time," he laughed eerily. The blood energy engulfed the entire courtyard. The city lord's mansion seemed about to be consumed. That blood-colored skull was clearly his true fate. It floated in the air, surrounded by countless vengeful souls. "I heard the Blood Nether Sacred Grounds cultivation methods defy the heavens. I didn't expect them to be so cruel." Su Zimo shook his head. "Even after death, you imprison their souls and refuse to let them go. Winners live, losers are meat on the chopping block." Xue Ziyuan laughed. "What? Are you afraid? Don't worry, soon you'll join them too." "You think you can win?" Su Zimo chuckled. "Reverse in ghost art," Xue Ziyuan shouted. The countless vengeful souls began devouring each other. In mere moments, only one remained. This final soul was the most refined, the most powerful. Then the blood skull above Xue Ziyuan opened its mouth and devoured that last soul. The moment it swallowed it, the skull's aura surged dramatically. Blood mist rose around them, engulfing the entire mansion. From the mist came horrifying screams. 1, 2, 3, countless undead corpses began crawling out of the blood fog. Some house guards were caught off guard and were ripped apart by these undead. Su Zimo frowned slightly. With a single slash, Sword and blade energy tore the zombies apart. But they seemed immortal, even just a severed head could still attack independently. As more and more undead appeared, it seemed endless, impossible to kill them all. "What do we do, Holy Sun?" Feng Tianhe asked urgently nearby. "We're trapped in here. If this continues, the entire mansion will be destroyed." Su Zimo looked up. This didn't feel like a formation, but there was definitely a pattern. "Die exhausted in my infinite blood prison." A laugh echoed through the mist. The laughter came from all directions. There was no way to tell where it originated. "This is getting interesting." Su Zimo shook his head. He closed his eyes, releasing his divine soul. But the vision returned was all blood red, endless and vast. No matter what this is, against absolute power, it's meaningless. Su Zimo shook his head. He slowly drew Shadow Tyrant, and countless waves of blade energy swirled in the sky. An ancient azure dragon circled behind him, the 7th transformation of the war god's 9 transformations. The dragon began to shift, and behind him appeared a void. A stone staircase emerged, ethereal and transcendent. War god's 8th transformation, Blue Cloud, Su Zimo whispered as he slashed Shadow Tyrant downward. Heaven Burial appeared as well. A sky-shattering wave of blade energy erupted, tearing through the cosmos. The blood mist was forcefully split apart, spatial turbulence ravaging the scene. The shadow of the skull emerged from within. Chapter 760, Returning to True Martial Sacred Ground. When the Heaven Burial slash came down, the endless blood mist was momentarily torn apart. The skull hidden within looked on in shock. Then, as the Shadow Tyrant was raised again and slashed down, the skull was directly suppressed in place. The surrounding space had already been completely torn apart by the blade aura, and the curved blade loomed ever closer. The skull screamed. With a loud boom, Su Zimo's long blade, carrying endless momentum, cut through like a ship through waves. At the moment of impact, a scream of agony echoed out. Xue Ziyuan was blasted out of the blood mist. The skull shattered, and the blood mist slowly dissipated. Su Zimo, holding the Shadow Tyrant, walked step by step toward Xue Ziyuan. Xue Ziyuan stood up again. His body was like a squirming worm, torn into broken pieces. It looked terrifying. Despite the severe injuries, he was still struggling to survive. "You're really tenacious," Su Zimo smiled. He stomped on Xue Ziyuan's abdomen, knocking him back to the ground and pinning him underfoot. "I heard you like pain?" He raised the Shadow Tyrant and began slicing flesh off Xue Ziyuan piece by piece. "You dare kill me?" Xue Ziyuan screamed in pain. After all, a holy son was the core of a lineage, far more important than a core disciple. Especially now that heavens will had emerged, if a lineage's holy son died, their chance of competing for heaven's will was gone. That meant all the effort of an entire era would be wasted. And for an imperial lineage, the loss would be immeasurable. Forget being a holy son, even if the Blood Nether Sacred Ground's ancestors came, even if it were the war general under Grand Emperor Xue Ming himself, I'd still kill them, Su Zimo snorted coldly. Without hesitation, he continued slicing off pieces of flesh. Screams of agony echoed throughout the courtyard, chilling to the bone. After a long while, the screams weakened and finally faded into silence. Su Zimo sheathed the Shadow Tyrant and walked out of the courtyard. "Holy Son," Feng Tianhe cautiously greeted him. "If the Blood Nether Sacred Ground comes to investigate, just say I killed him. No need to hide it," Su Zimo said calmly. "Shouldn't we let the lineage handle this?" Feng Tianhe asked carefully. "If even something like a minor dispute requires the lineage to step in, then what's the point of me competing for heaven's will?" Su Zimo replied blandly. Feng Tianhe quickly bowed his head and dared not speak again. Dominance and confidence, that was his first impression of Su Zimo. "Holy Son, City Lord, that young man just woke up," the old steward from the City Lord's residence suddenly reported. "Little Gui's awake?" Su Zimo nodded. "Let's go check on him." They went to the guest room. Yao Shengnan was chatting with Little Gui. "Senior brother," Little Gui greeted Su Zimo the moment he saw him. Long time no see. Su Zimo smiled and sat by the bedside. Seeing this, Feng Tianhe, Yao Shengnan, and the others quietly exited the room. Sorry for causing trouble again, little Gue said with guilt. There's no such thing between us. The blood nether sacred ground isn't worth worrying about, Su Zimo replied. How are you feeling now? The injuries are almost healed. With a day of rest, I should be able to walk, little Gue replied. Good. After all, you used to roll with me. My people aren't the kind to get bullied, Su Zimo said. Senior brother, I kind of regret not staying with you back then, little Gue said after a pause. Why's that? Su Zimo asked, confused. This world ultimately belongs to the strong. Sometimes I want a peaceful life, but it won't let me. Little Gue shook his head. If I'd stayed by your side, maybe I wouldn't be this weak. I feel like I've disgraced you. Everyone chooses their own life. Once you make a choice, there's no need to regret it, no matter the outcome. You and Ruhu are among the few real friends I have. When I become Grand Emperor, I'll protect you both for life. No need to overthink it. Su Zimo stood up and smiled. All right, I won't disturb your rest. I'm heading back to the lineage today. Once you're recovered, return with Yao Shengnan. As Su Zimo walked away, little Gue suddenly called out, Senior brother, what is it? Su Zimo turned and asked. After a brief silence, little Gue said seriously, Please take care of yourself. Su Zimo nodded, then pushed open the door and walked out freely. After leaving the room, Feng Tianhe stood ready to follow. Su Zimo waved his hand. Go tend to your business. I'm heading back to the lineage, no need to follow. Watching him leave, the old man in green robes beside Feng Tianhe sighed. This generation's holy son is truly unfathomable. That's a blessing for our imperial lineage, Feng Tianhe smiled. If he can bear heaven's will in this era, it'll benefit us all. Yao Shengnan entered the room. Little Gue was already struggling to sit up, leaning against the wall. His eyes were unfocused, as if lost in thought. What are you thinking about? Yao Shengnan waved a hand in front of his eyes and asked curiously. Thinking about the days following senior brother. Little Gue gave a bitter smile. Really? Yao Shengnan said. We really owe Brother Su this time. Otherwise, neither of us would have escaped. Don't take such risks next time. Senior brother is really lonely, little Gue said after a pause. I can feel it. He carries a lot in his heart. But he never talks about it, always bearing it alone. Leaving Phoenix River City, Su Zimo continued riding the Dark Sky Tiger back toward the true martial sacred ground. After more than 10 days of travel, he finally arrived in front of the lineage. This colossal power in the western region always seemed so serene. Shrouded in mist, surrounded by all sorts of celestial trees. Su Zimo walked along the tree-lined avenue, heading straight to the lineage gate. When the two gatekeeping disciples saw him, they quickly greeted, Greetings, Holy Son. Su Zimo waved his hand slightly, signaling the Dark Sky Tiger to head toward Green Mountain, where his father was. Once he was out of sight, the two disciples finally breathed a sigh of relief. Our Holy Son is really mysterious. I haven't seen him once in half a year, said the one on the left. Totally normal. With heavens will forming, he's probably back to prepare for battle. The other nodded.